train. But even if I have to walk, I'm going on just the same. I gotta go to Kansas City, y'all. Look out, Kansas City, here I come. That's what I said now. I heard about your fine women up there. Oh, Lord, I'm gonna get me one. Come on. And then you're kind of groovy. It's all right. I might take a train. I might take a plane. But even if I have to walk, I'm going on just the same. I gotta go to Kansas City, y'all. Look out, Kansas City, here I come. That's what I said. I heard about you fine women up there. Oh, Lord, I've gotta have me one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I heard about you fine women up there. Oh, Lord, I've gotta have me one. Ow! Come on, baby. Look out, baby.
On the order for workshop for June 24th, 2021. Mr. Citro, you still have the pledge of allegiance for this month, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, and an invocation as well. Imam Inshira Abdel Jali, is a Muslim leader in Tampa, a husband for 41 great years and a father of 5 wonderful children. He provides leadership classes and other services at the TMC, which is the Muslim Connection. Please welcome Imam Ishra Abdel Jali. Imam, would you please lead us in the invocation? And would everyone please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, the city clerk informs me that the imam is not online presently.
Okay. May we start with the pledge then?
We'll do a moment of silence since he's not on, then we'll do the pledge. Mr. Joe.
A moment of silence. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
saving time, I'm going to run downstairs.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you walk, you can come back.
Let's do a roll call quick, Mr. Citro, while you're still here, right quick, sir.
Carlson.
Here.
Maniscalco. Dingfelder. Citro.
Here.
Vieira. Miranda.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
You have a physical quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Shelby.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of City Council, Martin Shelby, the City Council Attorney. Today's workshop is being conducted with a live in-person quorum of City Council present in City Council chambers. This is during the continuing COVID-19 state of emergency. In response to the COVID-19 restrictions, members of the public are encouraged to participate virtually through video teleconferencing, referred to by Florida statutes and rules as Communications Media Technology, or CMT. Today's workshop is being held in accordance with the emergency rules of procedure as adopted by Resolution Number 2020-225 and as amended by Resolution Number 2020-490 and 2021-241. The public and the citizens of the City of Tampa are able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and on the web at www.tampa.gov/livestream, one word. The public has had the opportunity to send in written comments by internet or by email or by U.S. mail. They also have the opportunity to speak remotely during public comment through the use of CMT, and that is by pre-registering, and also the opportunity to participate using the CMT that's available at Old City Hall on the second floor. Those people who do not have access to it are invited to attend the second floor of Old City Hall, and please note that use of masks and social distancing inside the building are encouraged. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby. Let's go do the approval of the agenda, Mr. Shelby.
If you wish, Mr. Chairman, I believe there are two items that are requesting a continuance, items number 2 and number 3, both to August 26th of 2021.
Move to continue to August 26, 2021. That's
Second.
items 2 and 3.
Mr. Maniscalco has moved it. Mr. Miranda, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And number 11 is a request of Councilman Vieira to have that item moved up from number 11 to be the second item after ceremonial.
So moved.
Second.
Motion moved by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And
Motion carried.
before we get into the regular workshop session, after the ceremonial, I have requested Ms. Zellman to join me to talk with you very briefly about the state of emergency and the governor's executive order, which is set to expire on Saturday. And it'll just take a few minutes, but I'd appreciate that.
We will get that, Mr. Shelby, right after the accommodation of the police officer of the month.
Actually, you could do that after public comment as well. How about after public comment, before you get into the regular
Right,
business of the
yeah,
workshop?
we'll get it after public comment. I was just gonna state that after 1 and item 11, we would do it after public comment, sir.
Thank you.
Move to approve the agenda.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Gentlemen, before we do get started, I did send a memo to all council members in reference to the CRB signing of the ordinance with myself and the mayor and the CRB. Please govern yourselves accordingly. If you can attend, please attend. If you can adjust your schedules. I just ask you as part of the chair, as unified as this body has been, want to continue to strive to have unity among this board and also with the mayor's office. So thank you for that.
Do we know, and maybe this is a question for Gina later, but do we know the mayor's executive order that she's going to sign today, is it the same that was presented to us last week? Has anything changed? Do we know?
Mr. Shelby, I previously that order is the same, correct, sir?
I'm not aware of any changes. I'm not aware of any.
And it we were told last week that it replaces the old version.
That's correct, from my understanding.
So that, yeah, just for anybody in public watching, I think the new thing that would happen today is that the mayor is going to do her part to replace the old executive order, which had a lot of problems in it that limited council's authority and the public's insights. Thank you.
Yeah, my understanding, from what I've read, and I did not sign the order last week, gentlemen, I was waiting for the mayor because I want us to do it jointly to show cohesiveness with the administration and this body. So I did not sign the order last week on Friday. So at this particular point, what I saw in the order is everything we asked for, what was voted on upon. So if you can attend 1:30, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, the agenda has been moved. We'll go to ceremonials, presentation. Police Officer of the Month, Mr. Citro, you downstairs. There he is.
Mr. Chair, council members, I thank you very, very much. As always, I always start out the Officer of the Month by saying that if more people want to know what these officers go through each and every day in their line of work, they will go to the Citizens Police Academy for the city of Tampa. And as soon as it starts back up, believe me, I will let everybody know that it started again. Today, we have the pleasure of presenting a commendation for Officer of the Month to Officer James M. D'Amato. Good Italian officer. Thank you very much. For the Officer of the Month in 2021, you see his lovely family behind me. His wife is the hero of the family. Every wife, every spouse, every mother and father of officers watch the officer go off to work and pray every day that they come home. So thank you for being the true hero of the family. Chief, would you please come up and explain the reason why this officer is Officer of the Month?
Sir. Morning, Council. Ruben Delgado, the Assistant Chief. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and present Officer Detoma is the Officer of the Month, and as well as the community partners that are here to support him as well. So Officer Detoma's been here about 7 years, almost 7 years here, and he's currently working in District 3. So he quickly identified an area in District 3 that we were having some narcotics activity, some gun complaints, some gun crimes that were going on at a food store on 40th Street. It became known for a location for narcotic sales, some gun violence, and had a couple shootings in the area of the food store. So basically, Detoma recognized this. He noticed that there was some known violent offenders in the area. He recognized the need for an operational plan to combat the violent crimes, so he created an operation called Take It Back as a joint plan that included not only his squad, but all of the street anti-crime squads, the violent crime squads, as well as the community partnership and the community-oriented policing squads. He identified the location. He alerted officers as to which individuals were trespassed from those locations. He provided insight on which criminal behavior he was witnessing during some surveillance time in his patrol time, to include what cars were potentially involved in selling narcotics in and around the store, and which suspects were known to carry firearms or may have discarded firearms in the area. He also used our Street Smart software program. It's a platform that we use to kind of communicate amongst squads to track the progress of the plan. Through this discussion board, he was able to identify 13 subjects that were identified with crimes in that area. Both the violent crime squads remained in constant contact, updating the leads that they were doing that led to the arrest and seizures of guns and firearms. Due to his efforts in the Operation Take It Back, 8 firearms were seized, 2 which that were reported stolen, and 3 offenders were arrested for those crimes. Additionally, there was multiple narcotic seizures, 4 defendants had active warrants, and 1 defendant was charged with fleeing to elude. So in recognition to his initiative and his leadership, making substantial impact in the violent crime fight that's in District 3, Officer James Detoma has been selected as Tampa Police Officers Officer of the Month.
Officer Detoma, I always say that we have officers, every officer, should be getting this Officer of the Month. You were chosen by your peers and by your fellow officers for this. Because of your dedication to service, commitment to excellence, and going above and beyond the call of duty, you have been chosen for this mark of distinction as Officer of the Month by Tampa City Council. Your peers, your superiors, recognize you for the outstanding work ethic and the dedication of keeping our community safe. We commend you for your initiative and leadership in Operation Take Back and other efforts that have made a substantial impact in reducing violent crime in the city of Tampa. Officer, it is the honor of the Tampa City Council to present Officer James D'Amato with this commendation, the 24th day of June 2021. Officer, congratulations to you. That is yours. Council member, we're going to go now to the wonderful people that come and present their appreciation to the Officer of the Month, but we're going to first start out with the Police Benevolent Association. Ms. Portman?
Good morning, Councilman. Darla Portman, President of the Tampa Police Benevolent Association. We got Jimmy over here, Jimmy Owens, the Vice President. Good morning. I'd like to present this to you, James. You're doing a great job. The PBA is proud of you. Your union's proud of you, and we love officers that go out there and they work hard and they represent the police department in the manner that you do in the community. So congratulations, and this is for you and your family, and we'll put it over there for you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, officer. Congratulations on a job well done. Mike MacArthur with Steps Towing Service, accompanied today by Christy Vanette. On behalf of Todd Stepp and Steps Towing, we would like to present you with a $50 Bass Pro gift card and a night out in our company limousine. So I'm going to put the challenge out there again. I haven't done it in a while, and I still want to see somebody pull up 2 Bass Pro in the limo, take a picture, and I think that'll be the coolest thing ever. So thank you for everything that you do for our community, Job well done. Thank you very much. And enjoy some time off.
Absolutely beautiful
Thank you.
family.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. Pete Brevy, Busch Gardens. First of all, it's good to be back, and as I always say, it's an honor to represent Busch Gardens, and I want to thank you for obviously continuing to honor the men and women of law enforcement every month. Obviously, it's Jimmy. I've known Jimmy for a while, and he's a frequent flyer at Busch Gardens, and I'd like to. And I always say that we're going to give tickets to people who always come to Busch Gardens anyway, but Jimmy, on behalf of Busch Gardens and Neil Thurman, our park president, thank you for what you do for the community, as highlighted by Chief Delgado, but always thank you for what you do on a daily basis. Not only is Jimmy a great police officer, but he's a better human being, and thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good morning, Council. Leah Van Name with Tampa Theater Officer. On behalf of Tampa Theater, I'm honored to give you the gift of a membership to the theater. It includes free tickets for movies, a free tour to the theater, a discount on popcorn and candy for the girls. We appreciate all the work that you do and the service, you know, in our community, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're getting so much stuff. Where'd it go? It was up here. Councilman, there are other community partners that wish they could have been here tonight, from Zoo Tampa, from the Casper Corporation, and from the Straz Center. But I'm going to have my guest speaker, Mr. Steve Michelini, present for them.
Good morning, Council. I'm very happy to be here and to recognize this fine officer. I think the girls need to come up here so they get on the camera. Those blue dresses are outstanding. And I'm trying to figure out how two of them got blue dresses and one of them didn't. But you ought to come on up here, because this is a support group that is standing behind this officer every day and every evening when they're out on patrol. So we'd like to recognize them as well. We're, on behalf of the Straz Center, they're going to provide a guest pass to go and enjoy Frozen, which is a Broadway hit. And I think that the Straz always says that if you need more tickets, they'll give them to you for the kids. On behalf of Zoo Tampa, they're going to provide you with a gift certificate so you and your family can go enjoy Zoo Tampa. And on behalf of McDonald's Corporation, Casper's, they're going to provide you with gift certificates so you can enjoy yourself there. I have a couple of other issues, presentations for the officer, including the Metropolitan YMCA, who's providing a guest pass for you and your family. The Chicho Restaurant Group, which is providing you with your choice, breakfast, lunch, or dinner at their establishments. On behalf of the Prestige Portraits, formerly known as Brent Allen Studios, they're providing you with a gift certificate so you can have your portraits taken, and the girls have to wear the blue dresses. Okay. And on behalf of the Yummy House China Bistro, we're providing you with your choice of lunch or dinner. And again, I'm familiar with that area in particular, and I know what a challenge it is to work out there. So we do appreciate your hard work and what you've done out there to help straighten things out. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for filling in, Steve. Officer, before you introduce your lovely family, council members, is there anything that you would like to say?
Mr. Vieira, recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. No, just, officer, thank you so much for your service. I'm glad that your wonderful, beautiful family is there. You look like you're a very blessed person in your life, and your smile reflects that, and your wife's smile reflects that, and you have just 3 beautiful daughters, and you're very, very blessed. But we're also blessed to have you, sir, protecting us. You know, a lot of, I was yesterday evening at a retirement party for Corporal Gene Haynes, and talking to a lot of police officers there. And, you know, there's a lot of dismal, I guess, if you will, feelings among many, many police officers and first responders over the last year. You all have had a tremendous burden over the last year, but also your family has had a tremendous burden over the last year. And just know that I greatly appreciate, to the best that I can, what you have gone through, what your family has gone through, and that the city of Tampa does, and that the people of our country and our community does. And that means everybody. Like I always say, Cubs fans, Cardinals fans, left hand, right hand, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, people appreciate what y'all do, and I appreciate what y'all do. So I just wanted to say thank you, and God bless you, and again, wonderful family. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco, anything, sir?
Thank you very much, sir, for your service, and congratulations to you and your family. Councilman Vieira said it all. We appreciate your sacrifice each and every day when you go out in uniform and your service to this community. Thank you, sir.
Madam Clerk, we recognize Mr. Dingfelder has arrived. Say it for the record, please.
Councilmember Dingfelder arrived at 9:21 a.m.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson, thanks, sir.
Yeah, just thanks again, as my colleagues have said, to you and your family for all your service and dedication to our city.
Mr. Dingfelder, you just arrived. We got the officer of the month. I don't know if you want to say anything to the officer.
Congratulations, sir. We appreciate your service so much, and you have a beautiful family. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Randall, you recognize, sir.
Thank you very much, officers. Grateful. We're all grateful for what you do in your job on a daily basis. And I look at your family and I look at your hair. I remember when I had hair about that much and my girls were about that age. And so enjoy them, because time flies and hair flies. And look at me. I'm not telling you should be a role model, but you are a role model in what you do in the police department. Because of the work that you do, people have the opportunity to live a little safer. And we want to thank you for your diligence, your work, and your ability to have the continuation of a beautiful family that you have. God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Officer, thank you for your work. 7 years. You're just now getting the tip of the iceberg. You're in the, right now I heard D3, so you are in the, what we all call the working man's district. So I understand the work you're doing over there. And congratulations to you and your beautiful family. And continue to do the good work you're doing for the citizens of Tampa. So God bless you, sir. Mr. Citro, turn it back to you, sir.
Officer, you stay right where you are. This is your chance to introduce your lovely family and have any words you want.
All right, this is my wife, Nicole, daughter Kaya, daughter Madison, and the little one's Abigail. I don't know if you can see her down there, but
we got her.
I just want to thank City Council and the Police Department for the recognition. I also want to thank the PBA for being here, and the citizens of Tampa for the gifts. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank my squad and the squad on the other cycle. If it wasn't for them, this wouldn't have been possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dingfelder, just for the record, sir, we have continued items number 2 and 3 on the agenda this morning. We're moving item number 11 to up to the number 2 spot for this morning. Mr. Vieira, whenever you're ready, sir. Mr. Vieira, whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. It's my great pleasure to be here today and introduce my friend and our friend, Mr. James Keene, who is the Development Division Director for Metro Inclusive Health. I invited Mr. Keene as the representative of Metro Health here in the Tampa area because of a number of reasons. Number one, June is obviously LGBTQ Pride Month, and this is an organization that does such tremendous work in the LGBTQ community. Also, just given some of the recent civic issues we've seen throughout the state of Florida, particularly with transgender youth, something that is so pivotal to the mission of our friends at Metro Inclusive Health, I wanted James to come and talk about some of the great work they do. And I'll actually be making a motion at the end on ways in which the city of Tampa can better partner with the wonderful mission of Metro Inclusive Health. So Metro Inclusive Health began in 1993, and since this time it has provided essential health and wellness services to our Tampa Bay community, regardless of such issues as race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, et cetera, with a real focus on the needs of our LGBTQ population whenever it comes to healthcare. And healthcare can mean anything from HIV services, emotional health and counseling, and a number of different issues. As some of y'all know, they recently outgrew their Ybor City location, which speaks to the real needs that are in our community on this issue. I was reading on the history of this wonderful organization. It appears that they began meeting at the local Metropolitan Community Church. I believe it was in Pinellas County, if I'm correct, and that made me think of something that's so pivotal to their mission. For those of y'all who maybe went to Sunday school or whatever it may be, you remember the old parable in the New Testament on the Good Shepherd, who would spend day and night. He had 100 sheep. He lost one sheep, and he spends a day and night looking for that one sheep out of 100 sheep. Well, you know, that speaks to a level of compassion that looks for the least of these. And when it comes to especially to our LGBTQ youth in the Tampa area, we need a good shepherd to continue to look for those souls and help them out as much as we can. So I introduce to you Mr. Keene. I leave it to you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman.
Go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman, and Council Chair and members of Council. Thank you for your time and attention. And it's my pleasure to be here this morning and share with you an update on the organization. In front of you this morning, we've placed our 2020 annual report, and I'd like to just bring a couple highlights to the front. Throughout the pandemic, which was challenging, obviously, for everybody, as a public health organization, first and foremost is public health. So throughout the pandemic in 2020, we were able to enroll 2,400 new patients into services at Metro. And within that 2,400, when you dig down, it's almost 900 individuals new to us receiving behavioral health counseling services, and another 340 receiving psychiatric care that they weren't previously receiving. We had 820 primary care patients. The growth has really been an extraordinary thing to watch. I've been fortunate enough to be with the organization for 7 years. It really, knowing that we reach the number of people that we do and providing over 100 services and programs to people regardless of their ability to pay, whether they have insurance or they don't have insurance, we don't turn folks away. One of the ways that we're able to do that, and it's a really important piece of the puzzle, we call it our Co-Pay It Forward program. We accept most major insurances at our health centers, and when you make your co-payment at our facilities, that co-payment translates into free medical services for people who don't have insurance or perhaps don't have enough insurance. And in 2020, those co-payments received through our facilities translated to $485,000 in free medical services that we were able to extend to members of our communities. Although we are LGBTQ focused, we are certainly not exclusive of anybody. It's in our name, Metro Inclusive Health. We are here for everybody. One of the important facts that I've got to share with you all today as we look forward in what 2021 is presenting us, not only is it the opportunity of our expanded footprint at the German American Club that will more than double our capacity. As Councilman Vieira spoke of, our current facility on 7th Avenue is just over 13,000 square feet. We've outgrown that, is an understatement. Our new facility will be over 30,000 square feet, state-of-the-art medical and community center, open and available to everybody, regardless of status, regardless of how you identify, who you love, insurance or not. We're the place for everybody. HIV continues to be on the rise. We started as an organization, as an HIV service organization. And here we are, almost 30 years later as an organization, still struggling with the stigma and the lack of education around HIV. Florida, sadly, continues to lead in new HIV infections. Hillsborough County is identified as one of the 48 most burdened counties in the United States of America with HIV infections, people living with HIV. That's a fact by the CDC. The CDC has rolled out some new grant money to end the epidemic. It's a multi-year grant. We're thrilled to be receiving some money to continue targeted messaging to most at-risk individuals. HIV, we're seeing it really is not an LGBTQ exclusive disease. It is a virus that anybody can contract. There are prevention methods that we offer, and I encourage everybody to learn more about HIV, be tested, know your status, and I would be remiss if I did not speak of our new facility being located where it is. 33605 is the zip code. It's primarily communities of color and underserved individuals with not great access to health care. So we are so thrilled to be able to really be that brick and mortar location where people can come and receive the services that they need. I spoke of over 100 services and programs. What we do know is that 90% of our patients receive more than one service. So that goal of wraparound care and all-inclusive, everything you need in one place, we're striving and we're really close to achieving that. So in closing, I will share with you all that these things are all possible with partnerships. We love collaborations. We're so proud to partner with Hillsborough County Jail and the Health Department here in Tampa and schools across the county, protecting and helping support trans children and offer support to LGBTQ youth. Again, that's a really underserved and vulnerable population that we as an organization cherish, we elevate, and we really, really strive to include everybody. And, health is very important. Healthy people are what make up healthy communities. So thank you again for your time. One last issue, as I looked down, I noticed I didn't mention meeting people where they are. The brick and mortar is wonderful, but we do have mobile health units, and you'll see us more in the community as we continue the HIV work, but it's also building trust, and it's building relationships with individuals so they do feel comfortable coming to the brick and mortar. So with that, thank you so much for your time and your support. Happy Pride.
Thank you, sir, for all you do and for everything your organization does. It sounds like tremendous work for many, many years, and we appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Mr. Cross is recognized, sir.
Yeah, just to echo that, thank you for your service and all the people you help and lives that you save. And also, thank you for saving and helping to save a really important historic building. I saw the renderings. It's beautiful. I can't wait to take a tour of that if it's possible.
I can't wait to show you all and have you all out for a tour.
Yeah, look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco, anything, sir?
Thank you very much for all that you do in the community. I was there when we had, the groundbreaking for the new facility. I'm glad to see that the historic German American Club is in good hands and being restored, and the beautiful addition to the original structure, but how well you focused on the historical aesthetics of the building, and it just really fits into the historic nature of that neighborhood, because it's right there in Ybor. But most importantly, just like your name says and what you mentioned earlier, inclusive. It's open to everyone, and it's an asset to this community that will benefit so many people and help so many people. So we're very, very grateful that you're here and very grateful for all that you do. Thank you very much.
Mr. Citro, you recognize, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I too wish to congratulate you along with my other council members. When I was with the YCDC, we saw the little metro that was down on 7th Avenue. And it has now matured into this great, wonderful organization that is helping so many people. Again, thank you for helping save that wonderful historic building on Nebraska Avenue, the old German club, which used to be a Masonic temple at one time. Again, I look forward to seeing the expansion and you and the organization helping so many more people in our community that desperately need help. Thank you.
Mr. Moran, anything, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you, sir. Way back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, I remember something that was close to what you're talking about now. It's called Mutual Aid Society. and that was the Cuban Club, the Centro Español, Centro Turiano, the Italian Club, and maybe one or two smaller ones. And they would, for a small amount, take care of the whole family from birth to the other side, the end. And they did it, they had hospitals, they had surgeons, they had nurses, they had x-rays, they had laboratories, they had everything. And I call it the start of Medicare. And the other one that we did was the government took over. It's not so kind, but it was, now they call it the lottery. It used to be called Bolita, which was illegal because the government wasn't getting the money. But that's how it is in life. So I'm not comparing you to Bolita or anything like that. But I'm just telling you thank you for what you're doing. And I understand that the premise of this, because I was part of that Mutual Aid Society, is one of the recipients of full care. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. During your presentation, I was wondering, I didn't hear, are we working with the school district at all?
We do have partnerships with the school district. Yeah, they're ongoing. Yes.
Thank you. I didn't hear that. That's a good thing to know that you're kind of partnering with the school district.
Absolutely. We work with the gender GSAs, and GLSEN Tampa Bay specifically are partners within the schools.
Well, thank you and your organization for what you do. And again, thank you, Mr. Vieira, for bringing this to our attention, sir.
Thank you.
That you, Mr. Vieira?
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, sir. Okay, gentlemen, we'll move right along. Mr. Shelby, I know you and Ms. Zellman have some things you want to share with us in reference to the governor's executive order, so I'll turn it over to you and Ms. Zellman.
If we can, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, Ms. Zellman's going to be on her way down. Maybe you could take a public comment now. That would be
All right, we'll go to
Thanks.
public comment. How many we have on the second floor? Anyone on the second floor?
Hey, good morning,
Morning, sir.
Councilman. I'm here and.
You state your name for us, sir, please?
Odell Mingo.
Okay, sir.
Yes, I'm here in reference to the liens that's been occurring on two of my properties, and I was trying to do I have been relating to Shona Tim, Barbara Bell, and Marlene Regina, and we've been going back and forth with trying to get this resolved. But it seems as if everyone is, I want to say, kicking the can down the street. And I just need some resolutions to solve this problem. I have two properties I want to sell to fix the properties that have liens, but no one seems to have a resolution to how can I get this resolved. And the reason why the properties are under the fines that's been occurring for the last over 2.5 years, no one can seem to, I went to court, I spoke with the code enforcers in the area, Miss Angeline Johnson. She the one who gave me the fines, and she told me I need to shut them down. I shut them down, I boarded them up. I did go to court. After going to court, I secured the properties. Upon securing the properties, I still incurred fines ongoing for the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. And no one can give me an answer on how can I fix the problem. I'm not financially able to fix the problems that they asked me to fix, but I was able to board and secure the properties, and I had them secured. I actually had 10 families go back to the street. I normally house people, unfortunately, are homeless people in the neighborhood, and that will come to me for a place to stay. But I couldn't do it anymore because of the liens that occurred on these two properties. All I'm asking for is a little help to lift these fines, lift the liens temporarily so I can sell two properties to fix the problem that's over off 23rd and 29th Street in that area. And I'm just asking for a little help. I done went through the code enforcer, Angeline, Barbara Bell, Regina. I have spoke with everybody that I can speak to, And that's why I'm here today. And actually, please look at this situation and to help me get along with, before I can get this stuff resolved.
Mr. Mingo, thank you. We normally don't talk during public comment, but I know my office has received information from you. I think Mr. Shelby has given all council members, so we can enter this to the record in reference to Mr. Mingo's concern. My office did say something to legal and code enforcement. We yet have heard anything about that either. So I'm hoping that staff is on line now, listening to the concerns, and hopefully we can get this resolved with you sooner rather than later. So thank you for coming this morning, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, did you get the copy for? Thank you. The Honorable Diane Hart is gracing our presence this morning, gentlemen. So, you know, we don't give her a 3-minute time, but she's free to go because obviously she's here, so she must got some serious concern. Does anybody have a problem with that?
No, sir.
Ms. Hart, welcome.
Good morning, good morning. I won't take up a lot of you all's time. I know everybody's busy and everybody wants to be heard. But I just want to say good mornings. I bring you greetings from the Florida House of Representatives. But today, I stand before you as the CEO of East Tampa Business and Civic Association, which is a not-for-profit affordable housing organization that's doing some building in our community. But I got a letter from one of the other neighborhood associations, and I wanted to read that to you all first, then I'll talk about the things that I wanted to talk about. It's from Ms. Frankie Jones, who's president of the Rainbow Heights Neighborhood Association, and her concern is that at the corner of Chelsea and Cortland is a nuisance in the Rainbow Heights community. As the president of the community association, she's joined with the CDC and the city of Tampa to get stop signs put in. So if any of you all out in the area, you've seen the stop signs. They were sorely needed. Traffic sped from 34th to 40th with no stop. So when somebody got hit, typically it was fatal. So she is concerned that about the no parking signs at the Blue Store, and she's talking about how people are parking and standing on the immediate property, playing loud music, drinking, gambling, urinating, and eventually ending with verbal conflicting issues. She says she's spoken with the mayor, the councilman, and she said these are daily issues and they've become problematic. Working residents are not able to reach their homes due to the gambling in the road, unable to rest after 12 or more hours of work because of the loud music and aggressive behavior, fighting, gun violence. So the Rainbow Heights Association is requesting that Tampa PD patrol and put boots on the ground and possibly go back to the bicycles. Many of you all know that forever I have been working with Lake and 29th. So I heard the officer this morning when he got his accommodations, and I'm grateful for all the work that Tampa PD does out in our community. But you all have to realize that we still have a lot of issues, and lots of it is not just our people, but it's code enforcement. We have a building sitting at the corner of 22nd and Dr. Martin Luther King. I have tried for years to get the city to do something about this building. It looks deplorable. It needs repair. And every single time we brought it to council, somehow they managed to get by with this thing, and I'm not sure how. But there's so much of this happening in our community. We talk about building a better community. The way to build a better community is to have a better looking community. I know we have a clean team, neat team. I'm not sure what we're calling our team now from the CRA. We have a 7 square mile. And for some ungodly reason, it looks like a mess along many of our right-of-ways, and it should not. We're paying for this out of our CRA dollars. So I need to better understand. I'm home. I'm here for the next 5 months. I intend to attend as many of your council meetings, your CRA meetings, as I possibly can so that I can really better understand what's really holding us up and why we're not progressing the way that I know many of you think we should, especially you councilmen. I know that you're working diligently to try and get some buildings torn down in our communities and get these eyesores out of our communities. But council, unless our code enforcement really cracks down on the businesses and make these businesses do better and look better, we're going to continue to have some very serious issues. So there's some areas that we need to take a look at. We have 23rd and Lake. Listen, we can talk about how people hang out on the corner, how people sit in front of businesses, but we couldn't do it if the businesses did not allow it. So you all really, we need to be cracking down on our businesses that are not doing their part. We like for people to move into East Tampa. As you can see, houses are being built everywhere. I always say to everybody, I won't know East Tampa as East Tampa in 5 years because of the amount of growth that we're getting for housing. But we need economic development moving in here. And I can tell you, as a former business owner, nobody wants to move in your community if they don't think it looks good. Looks are important. Beautification is critical. I'd like you all to take a look at what TICO is doing to our trees in the community. I reached out to the lobbyist yesterday for TICO. It's deplorable. They're cutting out the middle of all of our trees to clear the lines, but they're leaving the trees looking a mess. There's so many issues in East Tampa, but I get it. We have to bite them off. The elephant, right? One small bite at a time. But what we've got to do is ensure that the people who are responsible for this, that they step up. My office sits at 2814 North 22nd, directly across the street from me. There's a house that was going to be renovated. I did get an opportunity to talk to somebody about it. They cannot tell me that when code enforcement rides around, they don't see what's happening in our community. I need people to take responsibility for their roles too. Just as we expect our constituents and our neighbors and our loved ones who live in this community to do, we need the city officials, when they're in those cars and they see this stuff, they need to report it and take care of it. We need a better looking community if we expect businesses to want to come into our community. So I told you about the business at 22nd and Dr. Martin Luther King. 40 years we've been fighting with Lake and 3rd and 29th. Y'all know where it is. We all know. Come on, we've got to do something to spur growth. The building is now down. I'm hoping that you all will continue to acquire these properties so that we can get something going on in our community. You have the property at Lake and 22nd. I'm not sure what you're planning to do with it, but I look forward to you all. Let's get to developing some of our vacant properties in businesses. Stop me, I'm a developer. We don't need to put any houses on our main thoroughfares. We need commercial on these properties. So I beg you all, let's stop people from putting houses everywhere. And let's create a business district inside of our very own community. Look, so I talked about the CRA a little bit and the trees. So what I ask you all to do is, let's unite. As a legislator, I'm here to help you any way I can from Tallahassee. I looked at your agenda. You had sidewalks. You all might know I had it in the budget. Governor took it out. We'll come back again next year. But I want you to know that I am here for you to fight with you from Tallahassee in any way that I can. I look forward to continuing my work on the ground as long as I'm home, and even when I'm not here. You can always reach out to me. That's both our citizens and our elected officials. I'm always here to do my part. So thank you all very much for listening to me this morning. But let's band together and develop East Tampa as the other surrounding areas are being developed. We seem to be the last one left. It's our turn. So let's step up, everybody, including myself, and do what we can to make this a better community.
Rep. Hart, I'm going to see if any council members have anything to say, and I'm going to address some of the things you're talking about. Any council members? Mr. Maniscalco, you're recognized.
Real quick, some of the things that the representative spoke about, when she mentioned working together, we have a fighter in Tallahassee as a representative. We have a wonderful council member that represents the district. But I think what we need to focus on is, as has been said, uniting and trying to revitalize East Tampa. I'm not talking about gentrification. I'm talking about lifting up the community. Looking back at the last 40 years, look at Hyde Park. 40 years ago, Hyde Park, historic Hyde Park, you couldn't get a loan from a bank to buy a house. It was redlined or whatever they call it. Now look at Hyde Park. Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights, 20 years ago was not the Tampa Heights and Seminole Heights of today. What did it take? People believing in the community, investors coming together and lifting that community up. But I think if we work together from the mayor's office to the state representative to the city council, even to the county commission, and focus on East Tampa as a whole. It is the largest CRA. We've got that out of the way, but we have to put the focus on and put a vision together for that community to lift it up, not to push people out, but to lift people up, to offer them a better quality of life. And whether it's a marketing plan from a commercial perspective to bring businesses, whether they're mom and pop, whether they're larger corporations, to invest in the community, and then look at affordable housing and everything to keep people in the community so they're not priced out. But it's an area that is always forgotten. The focus and the emphasis has always been on other parts of the city, and other parts of the city flourish, and East Tampa's always behind. And I'm not blaming anybody, but I think we just need to make that effort together to lift that community up. Thank you.
I saw Mr. Citro. Did I see your hand, sir?
Yes, please.
I saw
Thank you
Mr.
very much,
Citro,
Mr. Chair.
Carlson, Mr. Vieira.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Representative, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Every member of this council would love to sit down and speak with you. Tim has already talked to you, my legislative aide. Hopefully we can set something up for next week and address all the issues that you brought forward to us. And you are correct. Without businesses being in the community cannot be a whole. But we need to discuss all the issues. So I look forward to meeting with you hopefully next week. Thank you for having sidewalks on your agenda. We live in a city where our schools don't allow busing within a 2-mile radius, which means children have to walk in the streets to get to school. Thank you for your fight on that. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Mr. Carlson, you're recognized, sir.
Yeah, and I'll echo the same thing. Would love to meet and catch up sometime. As I think everybody knows, not only was East Tampa ignored, all the city except downtown was ignored for 8 years, and we've been trying to bring budgets and plans back to the rest of the city and bring equity to the rest of the city. But in particular, we've all been focusing on East Tampa. I'm accusing South Tampa of talking too much about East Tampa. And so, with the leadership of Chair Goods, we've been working on solutions. We've all been talking to the neighborhood leaders and others. Unfortunately, with the shrinking of the media, there's not enough coverage of all the things that we've been doing. And so I think with us having discussions with you and the community, folks can hear more about the things that we're trying to do. Some of the things that you mentioned, many of the things you mentioned are under the mayor's purview, and I'm sure you're speaking with her as well. But with our hats as city council members and also the CRA board, we're trying to move these things forward as quickly as possible. One thing, and I could talk to you offline, one thing that bugs me on the agenda, last legislative session, Senate President pushed a bill. It's an unfunded mandate to force cities to use reclaimed water to convert it to drinking water. And the numbers we see, it could cost the city of Tampa ratepayers $2.5 billion to $6 billion. And there's no state money to pay for it, and Tampa doesn't need it. We have a supply of water for at least the next 20 years. And so I'm hoping that in the next legislative session, I'll talk about this later, but I'm hoping that we can either repeal it or extend the deadlines, because the only people that are going to benefit are the water contractors that are going to make lots of money off that. It's a complete waste of money. It could double or more the water bills. Last year, or a couple years ago with the PIPES program, we increased water rates, and we got lots of complaints from families that were living month to month and week to week and couldn't afford the raises. But imagine another huge increase in water rates because somebody in Tallahassee thinks we should drink potty water and spend $6 billion. It's a complete waste of money and hurts all the communities in Tampa. So look forward to talking about that as well. Thank you.
Mr. Vieira, you recognize, I think Mr. Dingfelder had his hand up today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. I want to focus, on the work that you all do in Tallahassee. I had a great town hall with our friend, a woman like you that I think so highly of, Representative Fentress Driscoll. She gave an update on the summary of what y'all have been doing in Tallahassee, and a lot of what y'all have been doing is sailing against the wind. You know what I'm saying? Sailing against the wind. A lot of your accomplishments have been having the courage to vote no on things. Bills that are setups. And whatnot. But you vote no with conviction, and you vote yes to do the right thing with conviction, courage, and strength. And I just thank you for that. So many of our state representatives learned it. Valdez, Senator Cruz, among many others, obviously Representative Driscoll, yourself, et cetera. Just for what y'all do in Tallahassee, it's not easy. It's a very, very difficult fight. And I just hope that we here in the city of Tampa are seen as a good partner for you in what you do. You know, we're very lucky to have Chairman Goods with us. His first year, you talk about a Mark McGuire rookie year. He got in $18 million for a East Tampa Rec Center. You know, I mean, talk about a rookie year, right? That's just marvelous, and so we salute the chairman for that and for so many other things. But you know, we just hope that we're here as a good partner for economic mobility and for turning East Tampa and all parts of our city that are disadvantaged as a place where jobs are created, where businesses can come and flourish, et cetera, and where people see East Tampa as a place to invest because that's where they can make money. That's where they can have profits for their businesses, you know, because that's the incentive in our society. And the message is that East Tampa is open for business and that it's a good place where you have a lot of folks who are there with spending power, who can spend it in the community at these businesses. And we're here to support that, and also for training and development. You know, one of the things that y'all fought against was the different versions of an apprenticeship preemption bill. A version of it passed. We'll see what happens with that. But we passed a historic apprenticeship bill to create a better pathway to the middle class for kids in East Tampa, and Sulphur Springs, and West Tampa, all over the city of Tampa. And God willing, that'll stick. But again, we just hope that we're good partners for you, and we'll certainly do our best. And we thank you for your work and that of Chairman Goods. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Dingfelder, you're recognized, sir.
Representative Hart, thank you so much for joining us here today. We've known each other a long time, and I appreciate you so much. I was so happy when you got elected a few years ago, because I knew you were going to go up there and be a fighter, just like Arthenia and others in the past before you. It's interesting. I know we're not going to get into it today because it looks like it's being set for a public hearing. But I did come across our desk the fact that in the next couple of weeks, it looks like we're going to be addressing one of those convenience stores. I don't know exactly which one it is, but it's obviously one that's been having a lot of problems. And obviously, we can't prejudge it until we have that hearing. But I think that it's a step in the right direction. And if we have to send a message out there to those convenience stores and the other organizations, you know, that are creating nuisances and problems in the community, then that's what we have to do. Sometimes it's a little bit of tough love. But anyway, but Diana, we appreciate you so much, and thank you for coming down. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Mr. Rand?
Thank you very much, Diane. I appreciate you being here. And first of all, thank you for the job you're doing in Tallahassee. I know that you're on the minority side, and sometimes it's very difficult to get your points across. But it makes no difference to me if you're a Republican or Democrat or whatever. But when you look at the suppression of someone trying to suppress individuals who have been voting early or by mail, and they want to take some of that away, that tells you this country is really, really divided. And I'll be calling you from my office to make an appointment to go see you. And I think we can work some of these things out. Some are going to take a little longer, but it's all there. And by the way, poopy water is drank all over the world. Thank you very much.
Well, again, to our citizens of Tampa, you know, we were blessed to have Miss Representative Hart here today, so we don't give a time limit on her public comment because she brings a message, so we have to listen to her message. So we give deference to that. But let me say this, gentlemen, Ms. Hart is right about a lot of situations. I always talk about empowerment. You always hear me talk about that. Not economic development as much as economic empowerment. And what has happened in East Tampa, the residents now, the property owners, have become empowered with the neighborhood associations. Mr. Randa just leaned over me 10 minutes ago and said, wow, look at all these emails we're getting about the issues in East Tampa. Well, we've always had issues, but now we have people who are now standing up to fight the issues now. Miss Frankie calls me all the time. If she don't call me, she'll call the mayor. If she can't reach the mayor, she's going to call me. We have some issues, gentlemen. I have been working with legal on some of the issues. They have a strategy that we're going to be putting forth, like Mr. Dingfelder talked about. We have to send a message. East Tampa can no more be the dumping grounds. I don't want to hear about we're picking on any black people. No, we're not picking on any black people, because the black people who are living there, the problems are tired now. They're tired of the shootings. They're tired of the loud music, the congregating at some of these establishments till late at night. And I can't blame them. We talk about gentrification. Well, when I look at the houses that are being built, I would say probably about 95% of the houses that are being built now, black people are living in them. They're living in them. But we need an economic engine. I've said this when I was a police officer. Until we do something with 29th and Lake, we're going to continue to have the same problems. It's what I call a U. 29th and Lake, coming around to 26th, up 22nd Street. Then you have Lake Avenue in the middle. I've said this to staff. I've told Ms. Van Long. I told the chief of staff, there needs to be a team. An aggressive, separate team that focuses merely on East Tampa. As they deal with mortgages, as far as loans, as it departs dilapidated buildings for demolition, housing. The strategic action plan, sometimes one, but the strategic action plan is coming. But with that being said, you have to have a team to work that strategic action plan. You just can't have it and sit it on the shelf like it's been done many, many years. When it's done, you have to have that team ready to go to fight all of those issues and have that economic engine come with that business district. Every other community has a business district now. We need to have one. And we need to aggressively, with code enforcement, change our model, change what we're doing. We're not taking people's homes, but we need to have a program. Like I said, I've said from day one, you guys heard me, the police officer, the firefighter, the garbage man, these folks who are driving the city vehicles, when they see these houses that are having issues, not just go there and cite them up, but let's have a brochure. Let's knock on that door. Knock on the door that we campaign. Hey, how can we help you? You don't know who's living behind that door in their circumstances. We have a money now that can deal with roofs and all kind of stuff, but people are not knowledgeable. That's why I'm hoping that director of communications for East Tampa will be on board soon, because we have to have a message to be able to knock on these doors, have these officers give out brochures, pamphlets, to get their roofs, get their house repaired. Until you fix what is broken, you're going to have the same problems. People are visual. And I say this all the time when I used to take little kids to other areas of the community. When they come to my community, they don't ask where a trash can at. But when they go to someone else's community, where's the trash can at? I hate to use that analogy, and it's bad because it's the psyche of the mind. But we're visionary people. So staff is working on some issues, Ms. Hart. We need to do more. I have some things that I'm going to talk about when we get to the housing portion as well that I've researched that I want staff to also look at as well to uplift the community of East Tampa. But again, I thank you for coming. Let the residents know I'm working every day. This council is behind me to work to get these problems solved. I know the mayor is genuine about wanting to do the same thing. We, again, have to be unified and go out there and send the message and get the message clear. So we thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you this morning. Also, you all, let's not forget our homeless population. We have a very serious homeless issue, so let's work on that as well. Thank you all so much. I look forward to joining you again very soon. Thank you.
Ms. Hart. Thank you. All right, we'll continue on with public comment.
Good morning, Connie Burton. This constant attempt to divide the residents of East Tampa as to those who are homeowners, apartment renter, developers, people that might live with grandmama, we want to stop that. We love all residents of East Tampa. We want to see the entire community uplifted. East Tampa has been in existence. Belma Heights, Jackson Heights, Northview Hill, a community that is almost, you can find those communities almost in any other community or any other city. You know why? Because things have been deliberately done to leave our whole populations and whole communities from prospering. So don't put it on the people. So in your agenda today, you got words in item number 7 and number 8 that you want to look into something, you want to have things explained to you, you want the staff to come back and report, I would hope it's with a sense of urgency. Sitting in East Tampa and being a chair for the last 9 months has given me, as an activist, a clear understanding of how things are deliberately put on hold. 26 available lots that was purchased with CRA money has been laid dormant. Why? Because of refusal to move forward by staff. And so, yes, it sounds good. I know the mayor is out this morning in East Tampa promoting a one-house rebuild when so many residents in East Tampa need help. You could do better if you wanted to. When we talk about loud music, I come to this council every week and hear other neighborhoods talking about the same issues. We ain't talking about incarcerating or shutting down business. We're talking about going out with some compassion to work with people. And so when we talk about in East Tampa, and we heard this same body and leadership that just left, talked about how we was gonna resolve some of the killings in East Tampa, we leave out the fact that we got a serious mental health crisis in East Tampa, along with systemic poverty. And the president understands that to get rid of both of them, you know what we need? An infusion of income, wealth, jobs, opportunity for black and brown communities instead of just ongoing rhetoric.
Thank you, Ms. Burton.
African queen. Amen. And you're the African king. Thank you, sister. I needed that. Hey, let me borrow that real quick.
Morning, Mentiz Knott, Tampa, Florida. You know what one of the problems are? Historically, what happens is anytime you have serial rapists, serial child molesters, serious pedophiles, they insert themselves right into society. They insert themselves right into organizations, insert themselves right into institutions, and they do what they do. And the white people that's sitting up there with Orlando Ghouls, they're allowing him to insert himself. The white people that's sitting here with Diane Hart and talking this nonsense about people pissing on the sidewalk and people gambling, and these garbage politicians that ain't talking about reparations, ain't talking about black power, ain't talking about black people having power. You understand? Talking about garbage. The white people that's sitting up there and allowing them to pimp African people with the same nonsense that allow Perry Harvey and other individuals to sit up there and participate in that nonsense. Y'all are disingenuous and y'all are dishonest. That's what y'all are. A garbage man upstairs in the form of Orlando Ghouls talking about he ain't African. Then what is he? If he ain't African, that's like a gay person getting represented to represent the homosexuality and homosexual interests, and then they come out in public and say I'm not gay, I don't represent your interests, I don't represent the interests of Africa, I ain't been to Africa, I'm black. Man, grow up and have some sense. Black politicians ain't talking about reparations. Black politicians ain't talking about real black power. Black politicians talking about nonsense, and white politicians sitting with them and talking the nonsense with them. Garbage talkers. Talking about people pissing on the sidewalk and people gambling. And people are economically oppressed. We've been economically oppressed for 621 years. And ain't nobody talking about reparations. The black man in District 5 that's supposed to be representing black people's interests, where we experience police violence. We experience police violence, and he voted like a police snitch. We need him out of office, y'all. We need to recall him. That's what we need to do. If black people ain't talking reparations, if your black politicians ain't talking black power, throw them out of office, each and every last one of them. from the top to the bottom, week after week, talking nonsense, garbage, rec centers, roundabouts, garbage, nothing more but garbage. Our kids getting kicked out of school, our youth getting put in the police hands and in the police state, and y'all talking about what? Roundabouts. People pissing on the sidewalk, loud music. Y'all are ignorant, black, ugly politicians. That's what y'all are. Each and every last one of y'all ugly, and you show it.
Fired up today.
We have anyone else?
Hello, I am worldwide, global, sovereign despot, holder in due course, King Johnny Bernard Booth Hall, Uniform Commercial Code 1-308. I am the North American head leader. I'm not a commercial entity, I am the actual living government and watching all of your commercial governments. As you can see, your blacks and whites are getting more frustrated, so you're gonna have to reveal the truth about what's really going on. Like, okay. Whites and blacks still clashing. I don't think you guys understood the whole world was placed under Babylonian enslavement. Every state, every country, every place you are. You're dealing with leaders from the old way thinking that they're still holding you under some Babylonian lockdown thing, thinking that all of you are sinners and against Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh and have been chasing after the wicked ways of religion and profit. Profiting off of detritos, what you like to call dollars, money, and all this and that. Unaware that real money was never allotted or given to the workers or given to the slave house or anything like that. Everything is borrowed, like here in America. All of these houses are borrowed, all of your cars are borrowed, including your money and this and that. We natives aren't gonna take all of this from you, but we do need you to get along and start healing each other and stop hurting each other and stop dragging around half truths and finally come forward with full truths. And Africans, you guys are called Nubians. That became Africa when Europe took it over. You guys are a Nubian. Wake up to who you really are. Same thing with my other Native Americans, indigenous like me, brown skin, red skin, Creek, Apache, Tahoe, Blackfeet, known like a Cherokee, Seminole. Our households are here to help raise you out of the filth and darkness that you're stuck in. We don't mean no harm to you, even though y'all run around scared and feared thinking that's what the deal is. As far as Mary Jane, Joe Biden, and all of them go, they're supposed to be transitioning y'all from lockdown to actual freedom. You guys have been doing freedom talks. You're not free. You guys have been doing independent talks. You're not independent. You guys are still stuck under the European power. You're still afraid to break away.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments.
That was the final speaker.
Thank you. Everybody registered, Madam Clerk.
Yes, good morning, Chair. The first speaker we have is Kathleen Farzingen. If you can hear me, Kathleen, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Farzanigan, a resident of Davis Islands. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. First, I want to thank city staff for hosting a session recently on the text amendment issue. LaShawn Dock and Abby Freely in particular have been so helpful in answering our questions and providing opportunities to express our concerns. For those of us who are active in our neighborhood associations, The Michelini-Lum text amendment raises alarms. It allows developers to bypass the existing processes related to land use code and to receive blanket approval to increase the height of structures, decrease setbacks between buildings, and before the provision was removed, even to raise the height of pools to grade, meaning your neighbor's new pool could be at the height of your 6-foot fence. The session city staff held allowed us to comment on these issues and resulted in the removal of some of these items. Our ability to engage in the process is critical as citizens. The only rationale for the text amendment seems to be to make it easier for developers to increase the mass of their buildings without a way for neighbors to express their concerns and interests. It seems prudent, especially as it relates to height and mass, to wait to make changes until the results of the massing study requested by Councilmember Dingfelder and approved by City Council has been completed. I respectfully ask Council to protect our neighbors' rights to participate in the process. Thanks for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you.
Next speaker we have is Carol Ann Bennett. Carol, if you can hear me, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I just want to say I agree with everything the previous speaker said. I couldn't possibly have said it better myself. In addition to what she said, I'm asking you to drop the administrative lot splits. They're a bad idea. It's a solution without a problem. More than 5% is too much, and as Abby pointed out, 5% accomplishes nothing. This will encourage more applications for rezoning, not less. You'll give them an inch, and they will come back asking for a mile. The new argument will be, it's hardly more than an administrative split. If this lot were only 3 feet bigger, it would have been approved automatically. You might hear that some people at the June 7th public information meeting were in favor of this. As far as I could tell, all those people were builders. All the neighborhoods who voiced an opinion were against it. Currently neighbors have a voice. Please don't take that voice away. That public meeting was very helpful. It convinced me of 2 things. One, I have no idea of the true effect of the amendments submitted by Mr. Lum and Mr. Michelini, even though I sat through the whole thing. I want to know what will change if their amendment passes. What happens under current code and what will happen under their new code? If citizens have not been given that information, then the changes should not go forward. The second thing I decided after that meeting is that privately initiated amendments definitely need to be eliminated. They are a tool for professionals with deep pockets to custom tailor the code to their benefit, and all of the ramifications are not understood. Item number 6 on the agenda is sidewalks and crosswalks so that children can walk to school safely. It's really a shame that we've been talking about this and it wasn't required decades ago. Please make this budget priority what it should be. Item number 10, this interim development control ordinance is past its sell-by date. There is no time left for a temporary measure, so just let it go. When the time comes, please pass the permanent measure, the comp plan change. It actually denies builders nothing. They just have to pay for bonus density, which they should have been doing all along. This proposal has been so blown out of proportion, I can't decide which Shakespeare quote to use. Much ado about nothing? A tempest in a teapot? I think I'll go with Dorothy Gale from Kansas. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. I will say though, if the Macy's property is allowed to use bar, there will be a riot in SOG. Item number 9, water. There is good growth and there is bad growth. Many developers promote the hair on fire approach to growth. That is bad growth. It's good profits, but it's bad growth. Thoughtful, planned, sustainable, resilient growth that does not outpace the infrastructure, that does not cripple the current residents with the cost of growth, that does not require us to drink toilet water, that is good growth. Thank you.
Next speaker is Stephanie Pointer. If you can hear me, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. This is a huge agenda day. So I'm going to go down the list. I know that you guys have postponed Mr. Shelby's number 2 item. Please give Mr. Shelby his life back and just get rid of the PETA. Number 4, please vote no on that. Number 5, I sent you a video. I actually sent it to you twice of the presentation from the 7th of June. There are 7 items that impact the entire city. Of all those items, the only one that I do not oppose is the additional parking for duplexes if they actually have 2-car driveways. I can't speak to number 8 and number 9 because I don't know any information about the CRAs. I did confirm that those were discussed with the CRAs and they thought it was okay. Number 6, vote yes. The sidewalk thing, West Shore Elementary was promised years ago to have a sidewalk coming from England so that the kids could get to school on time. It's amazing how quickly Bay Shore can get sidewalks for that community, but we seem to not be able to find any money to do these others. Number 7, HUD has no definition for either essential or workforce housing, but it's certainly not 500 square foot apartments at $1,100 a month. Number 9, the water thing, just say no. Number 10, I think I'm telling you to vote no. We'd love to have the IDCO, or otherwise known as a moratorium for SOG, but it's not going to happen. But I also think to have a transit corridor boundary, there's a reason why it has a boundary. Why would anybody extend that? I won't speculate on it. I can make some guesses, and I'm guessing it's some people with some pretty deep pockets, but it's certainly not the members of the community. We've heard repeatedly that SOG cannot be treated differently, but yet somebody thought it was a great idea to put this on the agenda so that the people outside the transit corridors could actually be treated differently. Go figure. And last but certainly not least, FAN, I wanted to give you a little update on them. FAN, for those of you who don't know, is the Tampa Homeowners Association of Neighborhoods. They're having their election on July 14th. Folks who are in the other neighborhood associations and listening today, please reach out to us. We have a new Facebook page, group for the community. We have a new website, and we have emails that are coming out on a fairly regular basis. And we are working on communicating with all citizens of the city of Tampa and helping them with their needs that affect everybody. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Jean Strohmeyer. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, it's a big agenda for this workshop morning. So hello everybody, I'm Jean Strohmeyer. I'm south of Gandy. There's several items here. I know 2 and 3 have been postponed. We need to get rid of the private initiated text amendments. We call them PITAs, and that's used as another thing, pain in the whatever. I'm just not gonna tell you that. So let's see, item number 4, excuse me, the lot splits. Having that done administratively is, we think that's a very bad idea. If somebody next door to me were to want to split a lot, I should have something to say about it, not people in the office that don't know the neighborhood and do not know, just don't know the dynamics. So that needs to be kept to the neighbors and city council and zoning. Number 7, this affordable housing, I just think that it needs to be done in a smarter way, but people, have to still live within their means, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. I just think, when I was 15, I lived in a studio, and it was $400 a month. One paycheck went to the electric and water, the next paycheck went to rent, and that I didn't eat out. I just didn't have any good benefits. Number 8, comparing Tampa to Chicago, that just irks me a lot because we are completely different than Chicago. We do not have the infrastructure like Chicago. So we need to build our models on what we, the citizens, like and what we need. Number 9, toilet to tap, I've said it 100 times. It's just a bad idea, and as Mr. Dingfelder said, we have enough water for 20 years. Who's gonna benefit? I agree, who's gonna benefit? And frankly, in 20 years, we don't even know if Tampa will be here. Unfortunately, we're overbuilding in the coastal high hazard, we're overbuilding in the peninsula, so our population will probably be reduced by storm surge and hurricane decimation, and people getting stuck in their cars trying to leave the peninsula. Number 10, the moratorium, they said, we wanted that, if the non-moratorium, moratorium, but like they said, it's had its heyday, and we know which ones voted against it, and we will keep that in mind. Yeah, that's about the full agenda. Y'all have a great day, and be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last speaker we have is Thomas Conley. If you can hear me, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, Chairman Good, City Council members. My name's Tom Conley. I'm currently the president of the Virginia Park Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to speak about items 3, 4, and 5, the E2021 Chapter 8, or -8, Chapter 27. Virginia Park would like to echo what the previous speakers all said and ask that the council do away with the PITA, the privately initiated text amendments, for the reasons that the many speakers before have already articulated. Issues should be brought to the council or land development so that they may initiate an amendment if needed, properly staffed, and allow the residents that are affected and stakeholders to have a say at the public hearings. I'd also like to specifically address the proposal to change an administrative lot split. As I stated in the letter submitted to you prior to this, Virginia Park has polled its membership, and we are strongly against this proposal to allow administrative lot splits as stated on your agenda and as very well articulated by the previous speakers. I'd like to thank Kathleen did, the city staff, and you for the work you've done to try to educate us. But I also would like to critique the video meeting. I think it was unproductive in one respect, in that it did not allow a true give and take between the stakeholders and the presenters. Once again, thank you for your time and all the good work and efforts you do for the city. Good day.
Thank you, sir.
Chair, that concludes the public comments portion of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. I believe we have someone else for public comment on floor 2. How many more speakers do we have down there, sir? Mr. McElhaney. Okay.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Council. Steve McElhaney. I'm here on behalf of the Builders Association, and we sent an email to you last night regarding item number 10 and the revisiting of the moratorium, or by any other name. I mean, it's the same. This issue has been debated. We've investigated this as well and provided you with information. Every time this comes up, the issue regarding evacuation or safety plans continues to rise. The Tampa Police Department, as well as Tampa Fire Rescue, and the Transportation Department have all weighed in on this, indicating to you in written reports that we provided to you, and also I believe that the staff has provided that as well, indicating that there are no issues regarding that their plans are sufficient, and that they have proven to be well thought out and well planned, and to their knowledge there's been no issue and even anticipated that would cause individuals not to be able to evacuate during the time of emergency. There has been no precedent established that there is some urgency to adopt this. And assuming, according to the staff report, that people walk a quarter of a mile, I can tell you that there are numerous service industries with more than a quarter mile and within that quarter mile that people drive to, or they use scooters or other mobility transit means to get there. So the study on the face of it does not really address the issue. I think that the empirical data that has been submitted from those agencies, Tampa Fire Rescue, the police department, as well as the transportation department, adequately address it. There is no need to move further with a moratorium in this case, and allow the process to work. It is in the process now of going to the Planning Commission for consideration and for input as well as study. We would prefer that you allow that to happen instead of another interim measure that would further confuse the process, and it would also send the wrong message out to the community, including those finance individuals who are trying to move here, invest here, and make Tampa a better place to live and work. So I appreciate your consideration. Again, you've received an email from me as well as some other folks outlining those issues in more detail. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers on the second floor?
No more speakers at this time.
Thank you, sir. All right, gentlemen, we'll go ahead. We've already continued items number 2 and 3. We'll go to item number 4. You recognize Ms. Shelby? Ms. Zellman is here. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Andrea Zellman, Deputy City Attorney. Mr. Shelby asked that I be here just to remind you all, back in April, when Governor DeSantis issued Executive Order number 2194, which extended the statewide COVID state of emergency that began March 9th of 2020, that order 2194 extended the statewide state of emergency for an additional 60 days, which will expire at midnight this Friday. And at that time, the governor included language in the order suggesting that it would be his last extension. He said the state should prepare to resume non-emergency operations. He has made other comments in public indicating that he will not extend the statewide state of emergency after this weekend. Of course, we won't know until we know, but we've asked Marley Wilkes and others to contact folks in Tallahassee, and so far the word seems to be that yes, he fully intends to let the statewide state of emergency expire. The significance of that is that a lot of other things that we do locally derive from or flow down from there being a statewide state of emergency in effect. So again, just wanted to remind you that it is very much expected that this Friday night the statewide state of emergency will expire. And with that, I'll let Mr. Shelby follow up.
Thank you, Ms. Zellman. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Just a reminder, Council, pursuant to your resolution number 2021-241, that the emergency rules of procedure for the conduct of meetings with the use of communications media technology, or CMT, terminate automatically when the governor's declaration of a state of emergency relating to the COVID-19 pandemic expires. Thank you.
Any questions, gentlemen? So, Mr. Shelby? Yes. Go to the lecture, please. So, during our conversation, that tells me when it expires, we're back to business as usual, correct?
As your rules operate automatically, sir, yes, that is true.
So, any council member want to chime on at this time? Because if it expires, then I'm going to instruct Mr. Shelby and the maintenance to go ahead and we go back to business.
If that's the consensus of council, we'll determine what happens on Saturday, and then we'll take action as according.
Let's go ahead and open for discussion now. Anyone have anything they want to say or add at this particular point? Because when it expires, I'm going to tell Mr. Shelby to tell staff to go back to business as usual.
I have a question.
We'll go Mr. Carlson, that's Mr. Maniscalco, Mr. Dingfellow, you
I
follow
think we
up.
need to get back to regular business, regular rules and regular business.
Mr.
Yeah.
Maniscalco, recognized.
Back to normal as things were. So.
Mr. Dingfellow, you're recognized.
So, I think we've had some interesting developments in terms of our process and procedure that have come out of this, otherwise tragic emergency that we've all been involved in for a year and a half, specifically in terms of public comment. In the past, if folks wanted to give us comment, they had to come down here and, sometimes wait for half hour or more to provide comment, depending on what they were going to comment on. In the interim, we've developed various processes that allow people to be able to comment either telephonically or, in the case of our zoning cases, they are able to come in through the video or Zoom process. And I think that we should have some discussions with the community about that before we just say, let's go back to where we were. Because in this age of technology, you know, that provides the community a lot more opportunity to be able to give us input, whether or not it's legislative or administrative matters or like I said, with rezonings. So, you know, I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave that up to you when and how you might want to address that. And Mr. Shelby, procedurally, you know, I don't know if we need to modify our rules to address, you know, that, or if we already did and those rules are already codified and permanent. I don't know.
They are.
So
The rule, you have a resolution created specifically pursuant to the state of emergency, and those rules, as you've been operating using CMT, automatically expire upon the expiration of the state of emergency, and you revert back to the rules of procedure as presently existed before the state of emergency.
Okay, so that's my point, is I think some of those rules that we had adopted as an interim and a temporary measure that do encourage and facilitate, you know, additional public comment should be kept in force as we move forward. And I think that's a very healthy discussion for the community and for this council to have.
So, Mr. Dingfield, how would you like to proceed, sir? I mean, discussion is good. I don't have a problem with that. My thing was, when the order expires, that means we're back to business. Now, if you want to look at some of the things that we implemented, could be of value to the community, I don't have a problem with letting council talk and discuss it. Mr. Shelby, you're right.
And just a reminder, council, that with the communications media technology and with the state of emergency, there has been an additional expense that has been incurred both technologically and also with regard to staff time and resources. For instance, the T&I department has exerted a lot of effort to be able to keep this up and running. And it's certainly worthy of discussion, but it also it comes with some cost. In addition, there was a discussion recently about the length of your meetings and the length of your rezonings. And just to keep in mind that the use of CMT, we've learned, adds time, physical lengths of time to the conduct of your meetings, which impacts your ability to work through the cases. So that being said, I'm not taking a position one way or the other, just to bring to your attention today that when the state of emergency expires, so do your rules of procedure governing the use of CMT. And again, today's meeting is the last meeting before council resumes on July 15th. So we just have to govern ourselves accordingly unless council wishes to take specific direction today.
You're recognized, sir, and Mr. Vieira. Mr. Dingfield?
I'll defer to Lewis because I've already spoke, and then I'd like to circle back and respond to Mr. Shelby's comments.
Mr. Vieira, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, sir. I overheard some of it. I had to take a call in a constituent matter, and I was overhearing this. You know, and I probably shouldn't speak because I haven't heard the full discussion, but just knowing the topic, I don't know where council, the majority of us, is inclined to go on this but Mr. Shelby's point on time and whatnot is certainly something that could be well taken. Councilman Dingfelder's points are well taken. You know, something that we may consider, I just put this out there, is that if you appear virtually is for less time, just so that we don't, just to address the time issue, so that people can still have access, right, for some more time in the future. Just something I thought of without listening to the full conversation, which is never a smart thing to do, but that's fine.
Mr. Shelby?
And this is supposed to be a brief conversation, council, and maybe we should take it up at a future time, but I've been working, and Ms. Wells is very familiar with this, that the use of CMT also raises a lot of due process issues and issues that we had not confronted relative to quasi-judicial matters that we have to work through if we in fact do continue that, because there are issues that have revealed themselves that need to be addressed.
Mr. Shelby?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dingfield, you go ahead and I'll comment. Good, sir.
I know it goes without saying, but we are here to represent our constituents. okay? And they come in all shapes and forms and sizes, okay? But that's why we're here. We're not here to convenience ourselves, okay? If anything, we should be here to convenience our constituents. It's clearly been shown that it is the convenience of the constituents on many, many occasions to stay home and use CMT. Now, frankly, I will be the first one to tell those constituents that if they want to be more effective, they should actually come down to City Hall. Because standing at that podium, okay, is much more effective advocacy than staying at home. But that's neither here nor there. That's just my opinion. Okay, but the reality is in my humble opinion, I think they should be given a choice. We've clearly seen that many people will get involved and give us their opinions if given the CMT option. And I think that's important. That's what the entire public process and notice and everything else is about. It's not just feel good. It's not just because the statute says we need to notice these people in a certain surrounding area. It's because we need that kind of feedback in order to do our job. And I feel strongly about it. You know, that cat is out of the bag, and people feel comfortable with it. And I think to take it away, just because, quote, the governor says the emergency is done or what have you, I think is just wrong.
Anyone else? Well, Mr. Shelby, what I would ask you to do is get with the administration in reference to the factors involved with continuing a public comment section with the CMT, and then get with all council members so we don't have a huge discussion to bring this back. That way it's narrowed down and tailored down. I always like to hear everyone's opinion, but Mr. Dingfeldt does have a point. A lot of people don't have cars. I hear that sometimes I can't get down there. And unfortunately, COVID did give folks an option to speak to council. So I'm open, but let's just see how we can tailor it, get with the administration, and then get with the council members, and then we'll bring it back for a brief discussion, and then we'll take it up from there. We need to move on for this point.
I can, yes, sir, except for the fact that if the state of emergency, by operation of your resolution and by operation of the rules of procedure and the resolution that's been adopted, if on Saturday the governor's executive order is not extended, then you will be operating as a matter of procedure under your previous rules.
That will end.
And we will not meet again until the 15th.
Correct. I understand that.
Yes.
So, like I stated,
Yes,
if it hits on Saturday,
Yes.
we're back to business as usual.
yes. And in the
But
meantime,
in the meantime, again, if it ends, we're back to business. One of the council members have raised a question for discussion, so I would like to instruct you to get with the administration, get with the council members, to bring that back for a brief discussion. If we need to change how we do business in this house, or change our resolution, or change our ordinance as rules and procedures, we'll do that at that particular time, sir.
understood, thank you.
Mr. Dingfeldt, you recognize.
I'm going to respectfully propose a different direction. I'm going to respectfully propose that we leave the status quo, okay, which is that, and by motion, I'm going to make the motion right now that we modify our rules, at least on a temporary basis, to leave the status quo, to leave the CMT in place until we can have that discussion, at which point we would either modify them, leave them in place, eliminate them, what have you. But by motion today, I'd like us to on a temporary basis, leave our rules in place, except we would strike the word, during the state of emergency, okay? Because obviously if the emergency is going to be going away, then I think at least on a temporary basis, we have given no notice to the community whatsoever I just got a text from somebody in the community saying this wasn't even on the agenda. I understand why it wasn't on the agenda, because we've just been hearing about it from the governor, okay? But it's not even on the agenda, but all of a sudden we're gonna change the rules of the game. We're gonna come back mid-July and all of a sudden people are gonna think they're gonna be able to participate from home, and they're not. We're gonna have zoning hearings that they thought they could participate and they can't, okay? I think the more prudent approach would be to leave what we have in place temporarily until we can have those discussions. Not turn off the switch right now without having those discussions.
I don't think we
So
can,
that's-
Mr. Shelby. I don't think we can. I think we have to terminate it.
Well, let's ask Mr. Shelby.
Mr. Shelby?
Procedurally, you hear what I'm saying, Martin?
Yes,
We control our rules.
yes.
We have the ability, I think, to modify those rules and allow CMT even without the governor's permission and emergency powers, don't we?
As of right now, I have not fully researched it nor seen what other jurisdictions are doing with regard to that. I was operating under the state of emergency rules as they existed. So
Well, maybe that's something you and
if-
Ms. Zellman can look at and we can get back to it tonight.
Perhaps. But either way, you can make the motion to be able to do that if possible, and we will be able to
Well,
report
then
back,
that would be my motion, to be able to do it if possible, if legally possible.
if that's the pleasure of council.
Mr. Vieira, you're recognized.
I'll second, if I may, that motion. I think that's well taken, because it is correct that a lot of folks don't know that this is being taken away, and to merely extend that right until we address the issue, either if we address the issue by taking away, doing a compromise, or keeping it as is, there ought to be some better notice to folks that are reasonably relying upon that, but we should promptly have that discussion in the meanwhile. But I'm glad to second. I think that's well taken, I would say.
Mr. Shelby, what we're gonna do, we're not gonna turn this over till tonight. If that is the pleasure of this council, we'll make this decision now, so we can move on with the agenda, if that is the pleasure of this council. So, Mr. Dingfelder, if you wanna put that motion on the floor, you're welcome to put that motion on the floor now, and then we'll take the vote, and we'll go from there so we can move on.
Well, I'm flexible to put it off till tonight so that we could find out what legal information is available. Mr. Shelby's indicated it's not necessary. So it's up to you.
If there's a legal impediment, I assure you I'll inform council.
Okay,
And
all right,
I'll-
well, I made the motion, Lewis seconded it, and Mr. Chairman, as you wish.
Mr. Dingfelder has made a motion, Mr. Maniscalco has seconded.
Discussion.
Ms. Vieira seconded.
I just want to make sure, because I came in between the discussions here. We're talking about number 4 on the 5% and 10%?
No, sir. Mr. Shelby came up to talk with Ms. Zellman about the executive order of the governor.
Yeah, that part I heard, yeah. So the governor has decided he's got the Saturday, I believe. or something
Correct.
like that. Okay.
What I'm proposing on a temporary basis, Mr. Miranda, is that we leave the community with the ability to communicate.
I understand, I heard all that, yes, sir, I heard that part, thank
All
you.
right, that's the motion.
All right, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Dingfelder, second by Mr. Vieira. I'll take a roll call vote on this.
Vieira. Yes. Maniscalco. Yes. Carlson.
No.
Citro.
Mr. Chair, I say this in jest, and it's an old saying from some of my brothers that say, if you want to get something done, telephone, telegraph, telesaw lady. All of us and all of our legislative aides read hundreds of emails from our constituents. We answer hundreds of phone calls from our constituents and have been, even during the pandemic. I'm going to vote no on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Miranda.
No.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Goods.
I'm gonna vote yes on it.
Motion carried with Carlson, Citro, and Miranda voting no.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Carlson, you recognize.
If we end up delaying or if we end up delaying this or continuous this, I feel strongly that we should only do video and audio CMT, not switch back and forth. And I know it's more labor intensive, but to me, as Mr. Citro just said, the purpose of public comment in the meetings is not to educate us, because we take hundreds of calls and emails and meetings a week. The purpose is for the public to speak to the public through this platform. And I think it's important to, that if CMT is a proxy for being here in person, that it should look like, as if it should be the same as if somebody's here in person, which is audio and video. Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Item number 4. Mr. Dingfelder Miranda's motion, who's from legal to speak on that?
Mr. Chairman, I think I probably can cut this short for everybody's benefit, since it was my motion. And if Mr. Miranda differs, I'm sure we'll hear. I thought this might be a good idea. Staff has responded to us and said that it wouldn't really change it much of anything, especially at the 5% level. The community has spoken to this and seems to be wholeheartedly against this idea, and they just want to leave the status quo in terms of the rezonings, rezonings and lot splits and that sort of thing. They told us that they like the way it is. They like to be able to come to council and tell us why they like or don't like the particular lot splits. So with that, I'm no longer in support of item 4 and would just move to strike it. But obviously, if there are folks to speak to it, that's fine too.
We have anybody to speak on this item from staff?
Good morning, Council. Abby Feely. We did bring this item per the motion of council to a workshop on May 25th. We had some recommendations there in relation to that. We were directed by council to present this at our public information session on June 7th, which we did. We did receive several comments, and I did just want to briefly report on that. So if I could possibly share my screen, I have 2 quick slides I just wanted to share with you. We had do I need to get permission to share my screen?
IT, can you help us share a screen?
Thank you. Can you see my screen? Wonderful. Okay, so I just wanted to report back on the public information session briefly. We did have 31 registrants and we've had 29 attendees. We were asked to take the temperature and kind of gauge the barometer on where people were. We did have 5 attendees directly comment when we brought this item up, and you can see those comments there. 5% is a slippery slope. Using the RS60 example, this would allow for 54 feet, and then 1 in support of the 5% had no direct comment. And then we did have 2 participants that indicated they were in support of the 10%. So I just wanted to briefly report to you on that. And then secondly, at the workshop, we had presented to you that there were 22 cases in the last 2 years. 12 of those were Euclidean and went from an RS60 to an RS50. 10 of them were planned developments. So just of the 12 Euclideans, all of them would have been within the 10% that were granted by council. And then in relation to the planned developments, 1 was within 5% of the lot width, 2 were within 10% of the lot width, 5 were within 5% of the lot area. So that is like a 50 by 98 lot where they don't have the depth, but they have the area, and 2 were within 10%. So I think at our workshop, Councilman Dingfelder had asked if we could report back on the 22. So I did want to give you a breakdown on that as well.
Any questions, gentlemen?
I'm satisfied. I'll just appreciate the report and the hard work that Abby, you and your team put in, and I'll just move to receive and file that for item 4 and move on to the next item.
Mr. Miranda, I know you were part of
Thank
this
you.
motion.
I just want to bring up some items here. When you're looking at what Ms. Abbia spoke about under plan development, one within 5% of lot width, you have a 7-foot setback, right? Assuming that's what it is, correct?
Typically, yeah.
So you have 7-foot setback, so that's 84 inches. And if you take 5% of 84 inches, it comes down to 4.2 inches. When you look at the 10% lot width, that would be 10% of what? Of 84 inches, which would be 8.4 inches. So we're talking about inches here, and sometimes a half an inch or 4/10 of an inch. When you're looking at 5% of the total lot width, an area, I believe a buildable lot is 5,000 square feet, am I correct? In some areas? So it depends on what the size of the areas are in different areas. So you're looking at 5% of something, so that would be 500 square feet of it, 10%, and that 5% would be 250 square feet for that lot. In some areas you have lots that are not the size, we just mentioned, I heard 98 feet deep, and that happens in a lot of areas. There's some like that in West Tampa and other parts of the city. So when you look at those, you might have 100-foot width with only 98-foot depth. And they were zoned that way years back, and sometimes there's a house or two, sometimes there's only one house in the middle of the lot. So there's a lot of things you can look at, and I'm not opposed to saying I give up, but I don't give up. It doesn't matter. It's not about giving up, it's about where do we want to go? And that's where we're at. That's what we're talking about.
Anyone else? Mr. Dingfelder, you asked for a motion to receive and file?
I just receive and file.
Motion by Mr. Dingfelder, receive and file, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, item number 5.
Council, if I may, just before we close out this discussion, therefore, in relation to the creation of an administrative lot creation process, we would not be bringing anything back to you, and that matter would be closed at this time. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
That's the intent of the motion, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5.
Good morning, Chairman and Council. LaShawn Dock, Development and Growth Management. Council, I'd like to briefly introduce item number 5. This item is a privately initiated text amendment. The applicants are Steve Michelini and John Lum. This request, since it is a privately initiated text amendment, Council, the applicant will provide you with the background regarding this request, and they will also make the presentation today. Also, Council, I am on the line. I am available if there are questions for staff. With that, I will turn it over to Steve Michelini. He is in person, and I believe he is on the second floor. He is ready to start his presentation. And Council, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michelini, you're recognized.
Good morning, Council. Steve Michelini. These text amendments started off a little over 4 years ago, and they came about from a series of meetings with the city staff.
Excuse me one second, Steve, and I apologize. As I look around at my desk in front of me, Mr. Citro, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Miranda, well, I don't know about Mr. Miranda. Mr. Miranda looks like he has it. I don't have the document that we're talking about in front of me in terms of the changes that you're proposing, and I apologize for that, but I think it's really critical that if we're talking about text amendments.
I don't have it either. I'm looking at something else.
Oh, you were looking at something else. So anyway, we're sort of at a disadvantage. Maybe we can skip that item, Steve, until somebody can give us copies of your proposed changes, and then we can come back to it, Mr. Chairman.
That'd be fine. We don't have it in front of us. There's no need to discuss it. Something we don't have. He's trying to explain something to us. Mr. Michelini, can you stick around a few? Maybe we get staff to give us a copy of what you have because we don't have it.
Yes, sir. I'll be happy to.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item number 6.
Morning, Chair. Good morning, Council. Vic Bide, Director of Mobility Department.
IT, can we get the volume up a little bit in here? 1 second, Ms. Vic.
Sure.
All right, try it now.
All right, can you all hear me?
Still a little faint. Is that good for you guys? Okay, go ahead, Vic.
Sure thing. Thank you. So I'm here for item number 6, motion made by Councilman Carlson and Citro regarding a request to the Mobility Department to study the possibility of installing crosswalks, particularly around schools. Again, I thank you, Councilman, for bringing this up again. It is an important issue around sidewalks. We've been working on it for several years now, and we'll be presenting on the same. If I could share my screen, please. And can you see the presentation? Can you all see the slides?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So again, thank you for bringing this up. This is an important topic, certainly. As we heard from Representative Hart earlier today, she mentioned the importance of partnerships and what aspect of our program we can improve through better partnerships. And I'm happy to announce several initiatives through our partners. The first one is with the MPO, and through the Unified Planning Work Program, the MPO board and some of you as well voted to have the MPO study school safety and the need for sidewalks, which is building upon an effort that had already started. And so we will be initiating that with the MPO. So the timing of this motion is great. Also, we've heard through the community, like sidewalk stompers, that we should work with the school board a little bit better and have partnership with them to share data. I'm happy to report that that has already been an effort underway. Alana, our Vision Zero coordinator, is working with the school board, and we're working towards an MOU that will allow us to share data with schools better, to understand traffic patterns, to understand needs by individual schools, rather than having a one-size-fits-all approach. We're also working with our partners at the county and coordinating safe routes to school programs and other sidewalk implementations as well. And of course, we continue to work with FDOT. District 7 recently appointed a safety ambassador whose sole focus is elevating safety needs, particularly walk-bike needs, up to the district secretary level and create projects from it. We met with that team yesterday. So we are working with all of our partners. We're also working with our state as well as federal representatives to bring forth the issues and critical needs around sidewalks to the state and federal government. And we look forward to continuing partnerships in that area. Now, having said that, I'm going to walk through various initiatives that we have been undertaking to deploy sidewalks, particularly around schools. And these have been products of studied consideration over the years that we continue to build upon through the initiatives that I just mentioned. So really, from a guidance perspective, it starts with the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, that sets recommendations for treatments for school routes, particularly walk routes. So this is just to give you an idea that we have a broad set of guidance that we follow. We're actually working through with the National Association of City Transportation Officials to see if we can get better guidance and a better document from the MUTCD that focuses more on bike and walk issues. So we're part of this movement along with over 100 cities across the country in requesting the federal government to reconsider the manual. So some of our key initiatives that bring safety, particularly to school areas, are listed here, and we'll walk through all of them. Please know that through all of our prioritization, particularly through the MOVE program, school routes are at the highest level of priority. School routes, access, we have tiers, and tier 1 is school and access. So let's look at the Always Stops program. This has been really successful. We've done over 80 intersections in about a year. This is what we did through the pandemic while traffic was lower. The goal of this program is to calm traffic, improve safety, particularly in our neighborhoods, and in some cases, our collector roads as well. We prioritize proximity to schools. We look at crashes, proximity to parks, also places where children frequent. And of course, we look at operational improvements that augment just the four-way stop installation. We heard an example of that as well. This program has been received pretty well by the community at large, and we look forward to continuing to support this through our Quick Build program. We have the Crosswalks program, where we have a running list of crosswalk locations where we improve walkability and also awareness of motorists and other modes of transportation of pedestrians within the walkway through signage, through appropriate placement of the crosswalk. And again, we prioritize schools. We look at crashes, parks, and other areas as well. But schools are always the higher priority. Recent improvements that we've made near schools, Alexander Elementary and Shaw Elementary, again, everything from new crosswalks, better curb ramps, access, and we continue to work on these initiatives also. We have, as you're aware, our Crosswalks to Classrooms program. This is very popular. We get requests from many schools to have this instituted in their school. And we look forward to covering every school in the city, frankly, should the funding allow that. This raises awareness. This increases participation by people that use the crosswalk the most. That's our students, that's our children. And it also improves access while we do that. We'd like to increase this program, as I said, to all schools through the city, and we look forward to that. We've also developed the two-tier criteria, as I said, and the highest tier in that criteria is around access and school. Here are some of the other criteria items as well. We're still working through the MOVE program, listening to the community, adding engineering and other layers on top of it of knowledge to really prioritize based on the vulnerable first, and schools certainly match that criteria. Our sidewalk program will also move from more of a reactive to a proactive approach. Funding notwithstanding on that. And primarily it's because we've historically reacted to complaints. And so what happens is almost asymmetrically, we hear from certain neighborhoods, most of the work is done in those neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods that we haven't heard from in the past did not get as much work. Like you can see in the bottom left here, that's Sulphur Springs. So we do have a Safe Routes to School program that will begin this fiscal year in the Sulphur Springs area, but this is also how we will continue to prioritize based on need and based on the highest use rather than just responsive based on complaints. We have school zone flasher upgrade programs, and again, we've been chipping away at this. This is a state requirement that within a couple of years, by 2023, all schools need to have certain types of signage, markings, and flasher assemblies to meet state standards. So we've been chipping away at this program as well with our partners. I mentioned Safe Routes to School. Our first big project next fiscal year is going to be Sulphur Springs. This was identified in the previous version of the MPO school safety study. We're now updating that study to today's realities and new information and means and methods that we have. That was the Unified Planning Work Program study that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. Again, we partner with state where we can and maximize the dollars, our limited dollars that And finally, in closing, I just want to make some staff recommendations towards this motion, and that would be to continue a majority of our programs. These programs are well-researched, they're well-coordinated across different jurisdictions and partners as well, and they will yield benefits as we go along. In terms of funding, we're always in need of funding, so we look forward to council support with any forthcoming referendum and any other initiatives. And we'll continue to work with our partners in the state and federal government and our representatives as well. At this point, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Carlson, you're recognized.
Thanks, Vic, for the thorough analysis and also all the work you do. I know this is something that is important to you. Is there a way that we can allocate the money faster? The community is demanding that we do this right away. They think it's unsafe to walk to and from schools, and then part of this, remember what was this or a different motion, but part of it also was that there are houses across from schools that where allegedly people are refusing to put sidewalks in, and even though it's a city right of way, and then because of that we can't build a crosswalk. Is there a way that we can just put sidewalks in there so that we can put crosswalks in? Thank you.
So that's a great question. Thank you, Councilman. And we are looking at creative ways to reallocate existing funding, but also create new opportunities to increase the number of sidewalks, or at least walking space through creative tactical urbanism and things like that. So there are two things that we've done specifically. The first is with our own budget for FY22. Again, we've worked with our Vision Zero coordinator and our transportation engineering department to identify a quick build program. And what this quick build program does is uses temporary materials, which are still conspicuous, which are still standard materials, but that allow us to do more deployments of active transportation as compared to gray infrastructure, which is mainly concrete, steel, all of that. And with that, our focus is going to be our high injury network and schools. Those two will be our focus areas. And again, we're partnering to see if we can maximize not just the dollars that we have, but maybe get some state dollars as well to improve our outcomes and our deployment. The other thing that we're doing, and we've had this discussion a couple of months back regarding our sidewalk in Luffy and our code relative to sidewalk installations for new developments. And we do anticipate and stand by our recommendation of updated in lieu fees. And at the next workshop, when that is coming up, I'm not sure exactly when it is, but it's later in the year, we will have our final set of recommendations, which will also move the ball forward on getting more sidewalks out there. We're working with our partners there as well, both community partners as well as institutional partners. So thank you.
Ms. Vieira, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And you know, it's funny, whenever I hear reports like this, I'll be honest, number one, Vic, two emotions. I always have just a thankfulness for your work. I think you know what I think about you. You're a good guy and you're a professional and whatnot. But I get angry, I get frustrated because, you know, in November of 2018, almost 3 in 5 voters in Hillsborough County supported raising their own taxes. I mean, that's, you know, it's funny, as elected officials, we're told, stay away from raising taxes, that's a kiss of death. Well, voters gave themselves the kiss of death in 2018. 3 out of 5 Republicans, Democrats, independents coming together. You take a look at areas like New Tampa, 33647, the suburbs, voted almost 2-to-1 for all for transportation. They voted for things like this. And when we take a look at the vast deficit that we have in our city, in our community, in the county, et cetera, on issues of just basic dignity and safety, it blows your mind. It blows your mind and how so much of that now is being cruelly taken away from us. And now we have to wait to potentially November of 2022 to take a look at remedying this. But seeing this in light of the public's bipartisan And I say bipartisan because we know many Republicans and Democrats and independents who came together for this. The public's bipartisan support for using more of their own money, our own money, the people's money, collectively to take care of these issues and these challenges and crises. Because if you're a parent with a kid walking to school and having an unsafe access, it's a crisis. So many different situations, kids going to school and not having proper crosswalks or sidewalks. If you're a person with a disability and you got to get to work at Publix or wherever it may be, you don't have access to that transportation. Just yesterday evening, I was doing a town hall over at Copeland Park and talking to different folks who were talking about, folks working at McDonald's for $9, $10, $11 an hour, having problems getting access to transit to get to their jobs. Talking to folks who run a housing program for veterans going through transitions in lives, mostly young veterans coming back with PTSD and other challenges, saying that they don't have proper access to Heartlines, et cetera, for their journeys that they have to take in life. So, we're going to do what we have to do here in the city of Tampa. But again, you take a look at the budget that we have, budget for repaving of $5 million when it's $16 million just to get dignity. I think our budget for sidewalks, correct me if I'm wrong, is about $750,000. Is it $850,000? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
850, and by golly, all for transportation would have taken us to $4 or $5 million. So, I think of, I'm quoting the Bible all day today. I think of the book of Exodus. You can't make bricks without straw. And the voters wanted us to get straw to make those bricks, and the straw got taken away from us, but we're going to get that straw back in 2022. Thank you very much.
I thank Mr. Citro, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Maniscalco, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Vic, you always know that you're my go-to guy when it comes to mobility, and I thank you for all the work you've done, and I thank you for all the help you've given my office. We are looking at something that has happened over the years and has just piled itself on top of one another. It started with a sidewalk fund and how the sidewalks were built in this city. It started with Hillsborough County School System saying that if you lived outside within 2 miles of a school, your children had to walk to school. I liked the slides that you showed us. I loved your presentation. However, we still have to look at that outside of the school itself. Kids are still having to, children are still having to walk within 2 miles. Vic, again, thank you for your help. And I'm sure that the next time you report to us that there's going to be a heck of a lot of overlapping as schools are within 2 miles of one another. So we've got a lot of work ahead of ourselves. Keep us posted. Thank you very much, Vic. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? You recognize Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, Vic. I appreciate all the information you gave us. Is there any way possible that this council could receive the information of the schools that we have in the city of Tampa and how many of them have the sidewalks, how many don't, how many have partial sidewalks, and give us an update with what the cost is for each school? And then I'd like to know,
We'll be happy.
I appreciate it very much. And then I'd like to know the real cost per linear foot of a sidewalk, because I have all kind of prices. And I'd just like to see for this council to have the opportunity to understand the real facts. That's why I'm asking you, sir. Is that possible?
Yes, sir. We'll be happy to share that information with you. The real cost that we incur right now varies from $81 per foot to about $68. So there's a little bit variability depending on the means.
Could you repeat that number, Vic?
Contract.
Could you repeat that number of cost?
68 to 81
Sorry, what was the question?
per foot. A linear foot.
Linear foot?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. That's what we need if you can. I don't know if we have to make that as a motion, but as a request, I appreciate it very much if we can give it to us.
Mr. Citro, you have another question? I've got a few.
No. I was just backing you up on your question, Mr. Chair.
It's totally, I don't understand that. I know costs are up, but I mean, I think people really give it to the local governments with these upcharges, and it really bothers me. And maybe that's why I talk about what Mr. Vieira, the apprenticeship program, and maybe we start teaching some people in our house to learn how to do this job. We can cut those costs and then give some of these young men and women an opportunity to learn a skill and be able to now work and partner with us to cut these costs down. because we've got to think outside the box. But my biggest thing is this: we have CRAs, and most of these CRAs have money in for sidewalks. That money doesn't go into the general fund; it's for those communities. So if those communities need sidewalks, your office needs to be getting with Ms. Van Loan to see who has money for sidewalks. Because many times we get calls for sidewalks, we send it over to you, whatever. It needs to be a system to where if sidewalks come in, and if you don't have some money, the CRA has money for sidewalks in that district or that zone, that CRA area, then we need to be looking to get those sidewalks done. So that could be another avenue we need to work to do those. Because again, that money is taxpayer dollars that's for that community that they're reinvesting in. So we need to look at that option as well. But I'm going to say it again, Vic, we need to look at a program, be it with the sheriff's office, DOT, Department of Corrections, because I see them to have guys out doing sidewalks all the time. So we as a city need to start looking at how we can help some of those folks when they get out, or partner with some of these other facilities, correctional facilities, to get them out to help us do some of this work and cut our cost factor down to get more work done and get more things done for the city. So I'm going to ask that again. I'm not going to make a motion today, but we need to get some answers to that because it's vital. You've got the sheriff office out there. You've got programs out there. That might be an extra program they can add. It doesn't take much to learn how to pull mud. When I got out of high school and when I went to college, as soon as I came back in the summer, I had to go work with my Uncle Joe Brown's construction company. Dad said, you got to go to work, and I poured mud. So it ain't hard to do. It's not. Mr. Sutro, you had something to say, sir? You're recognized.
Yes, I do. I haven't heard cement called mud in a long time.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I know exactly what you're talking about. Vic, last time that we had spoken on this, I had asked about alternative products, especially permeable alternative products. Please, if we can look into that, cut the cost there. I may be speaking out of turn, but I'm going to say it anyways. NASA is looking at some really great recycled products that are just as tough, just as strong as concrete. We also need to look in that avenue. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? All right, Vic, well, we appreciate it. I know you're a guy that always gets back with us. We can say that about you. We call you, you get it done. And I can honestly say that every time I've called you, Mama's called you, you've gotten it done. And believe me, council appreciates that kind of work. And we appreciate all staff members, but we know when we call you, it gets done right away. So I know you'll get us some answers about some of the things I talked about in Mr. Miranda. So thank you for your presentation this morning.
Thank you, Chair. And I assure you, we're looking at both the in-house as well as innovative materials to address some of our challenges. Thank you.
Thank you again. All right. I guess we'll go back to item number 5 since we have the paperwork in front of us. Mr. McLean, are you still there, sir? Yeah, I really have some questions because I keep seeing all these private text amendments up all the time, so yeah, it's a good discussion. Mr. McLean, I think Mr. Dingfeld, myself and Dingfeld talked about 6 minutes. Go ahead, sir. Item number 5.
Yes, sir. As I started to say that you had this package previously. The only difference between the one that I'm discussing this morning and the one that you had previously is that there are fewer requests for text amendments. As I started to briefly, this started with a roundtable discussion involving the City of Tampa, the Building Department, the Zoning and Land Use Development Coordination Office, some private individuals as well as individual members of there's a monthly roundtable discussion that's held over at Construction Services regarding difficulties, conflicts, and issues with the code that required some additional consideration or to have the conflicts in the code addressed, and that's where this list came from. If you look at the overhead, the list was much longer. There were probably over 50 different items that were being discussed, and the city staff itself took some of those amendments on themselves, and what we're presenting here today are the ones that they requested that we initiate as a private petition. So I'm going to show you a list of the things that were stricken through and explain I'll go through each one of these individually, but the first one is the yards between residential buildings. That involves interior setbacks between multifamily structures. It does not involve anything on the exterior setbacks or any adjacent property. We've deleted the side yard setback request, which we found that there was a conflict in the code, and then has since been clarified with staff, and that was just identified and corrected yesterday. Allowing open storage in CG, this was supposed to be for allowing walk-in coolers and things like that for existing restaurants that had no place on the interior for walk-in coolers. We've removed that as well. The issue regarding swimming pools was just was too difficult to try to explain to lay people, and it had to do with a technical standard that appears in the building code, and that's no longer being considered. We've removed that. The item number 5 is the official schedule of district regulations. RM24 is the only district in the city that's residential that has a 30-foot height limitation on the maximum height of the structure. This would make the 35 feet conform to all of the other residential codes. The number of off-street parking for duplexes, this has to do with the size of the lots, and the issue relates to the parking garages that you have, which are required for two parking spaces and 2 spaces in the driveway. And requiring an additional space for visitor parking seemed to be an unusual and heavy burden to meet. So again, with staff discussions, they agreed that as long as it was only duplexes and not for more than 2 units, they would be supportive of that, which you see on the right-hand side. Allowing multifamily townhouses style to face interior courtyards. This related to a provision in the code which said you had to face a right-of-way. And some of the newer designs, and also it has to do with security, they wanted to have a courtyard where you would walk up to the front of the building, you would enter, and then each of the individual units would have their own entrance off of a courtyard. The item number 8 has to do with the East Tampa overlay, and item number 9, the West Tampa overlay, has to do with the front yard setback. And the code indicates that you have to have a block averaging, but if there's no other properties on that block, or if you have an extraordinarily deep lot, the setbacks were ending up being 60 or 70 or 80 feet from the front right-of-way and the front property line, which didn't make a lot of sense. So again, these issues were worked out with the staff. They were also discussed with the East Tampa and the West Tampa communities regarding this, and we had their support to move forward. I'll go through these in more detail now. This is the current code. When a property contains more than 1 building, the required structural setback was based on a calculation that involved length times width times height. This does not affect massing. This affects a standard, setting a standard of 15 feet between buildings, which was reviewed and supported by the fire marshal's office. This, again, does not affect the size of the development. It only affects where you place the buildings. And we had 4 different engineers, as well as the city staff, try to calculate what the setback would be between buildings. And we came up with 4 different answers. And so a lot of these were ending up having to either go to a rezoning, or they would have to go to a variance to try to establish what the minimum setback between buildings on the interior of a lot. Again, interior of a lot.
Each one.
Do you want me to stop?
I'm asking the chairman. Yeah, I'm just saying, can we do questions at each one, or do you want us to hold the question to the end?
However you'd like to do it.
let's hold to the end, because I think Steve's gonna have a lot to say. Let's hold to the end, then we get it all done at one shot, you know?
Okay, number 2 is stricken through, that's been removed. Number 3 and 4 have been stricken and removed. We're now on number 5, which was the RM24 and the OP zoning districts were required to have a zigzag setback after 30 feet. And again, there was no justification. The staff couldn't find any that established 30 feet as some magical number. 35 feet matches all of the other residential districts, RS50, RS60, 75, 100, 150. So it standardizes what the typical height is for the maximum for residential units. The visitor parking for duplexes, with .25, it ended up with 2 units was a half a parking space, which you had to round up to 1. And considering that a duplex is on a relatively smaller lot, it was tying up a lot of extra space. It was forcing these duplexes to seek waivers for landscaping, and then it was triggering rezoning when it was not really necessary for a small development like that. Number 7 has to do with the allowing the courtyards as long as and the front entrances facing the courtyards. They would have a main entrance that would face the right-of-way, which would have the address on it, and it would have the unit numbers. And then the fire marshal would obviously have to approve the signage and the addressing. This was the language that we had asked, the proposed language to allow front entrances in courtyards as long as it's not an alley. So we weren't trying to establish a front entryway on an alley, but rather it had to do with the interior orientation of the various units. This is the last one here is the item 8 and 9, which was the front yards determined by block averaging, and it would establish a standard of 20 feet, which is consistent with the overlay districts. Or if you have, for example, in East Tampa and West Tampa, in some of the older neighborhoods, you have houses that are fairly close to the sidewalk. It would allow you to go up to the sidewalk if there was a block averaging, but when there is no block averaging, it would set that minimum at 20 feet. This has been discussed, as I said, this is not a new proposal. It's been out there for quite a while. It was routed through all of the city for departmental review. We've had probably no less than a dozen discussions and meetings with city staff to review this. We had a public information meeting, and because the nature of some of these are technical in nature, I think that some of the people that made quotes or provided you with quotes and emails didn't understand what this had to do with the entire city. Well, it has to do, for the most part, not with single family. It has to do with other developments that are multifamily and standardizing the code and recognizing that there were glitches in the code that needed to be addressed. It did not seem reasonable to have to go to rezonings or variances for all of these different issues. And you can see that what we've presented to you, the staff was in support of. And we've eliminated all of those that we had any concern about, or that there were any questions, or that the staff did not feel comfortable supporting. So what we're here before you asking for your approval in a workshop session to answer any questions you might have regarding this issue, or these various issues, and I'll be happy to go into more detail with each or any of the ones that you have questions about.
Any questions? Ms. Dingfelder, you recognize.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Dock, are you on our screen? And thank you, Mr. McLean.
Yes. Yes, Councilman Dingfelder, I am here.
Okay. So what I think is a healthy way to do this is to walk through each one of these, and for you to either confirm or deny or what have you, everything that's been said on each one.
Yes.
And let me, and I did have a few specific questions. So in regard to 27162 yards between residential buildings, this says that the staff is, quote, in support. Is that true?
Yes, that is correct, Councilman Dingfelder, LaShawn Dock, Development, Growth and Management. Yes, we are in support of this request. This was the request, as Steve mentioned, regarding the yards between the residential buildings. It's removing that required calculation which exists in the code currently and putting it at a standard.
So we choose.
On some of the requests that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we choose 15 feet because effectively that's like having two 7-foot or 7.5-foot setbacks.
Correct. As standard residential zoning districts require that 7-foot setback, that would be that combination of the two.
Now,
In some cases on PDs, you'll see that some developers are waiving that requirement. So we figured that standardized amount, that standardized 15-foot.
and that was my next question. So this would be the standard that you would look for on a PD at 15 feet, and if they were trying to do something different, they'd have to ask for a waiver?
Correct. They still would have to ask for a waiver if it did not meet that 15-foot requirement. So it would still have to be recognized as a waiver and approved by council.
Okay, what if these were really tall buildings? You know, I mean, I can see doing this for single-family detached, single-family attached, single-family semi-detached, because most of those I think are 35 feet. But hotels and motels, I guess arguably could be very, very, very large buildings with large masses. Is 15 feet adequate from a mass perspective?
Could I answer your question?
Well, let me hear from LaShawn first, or from Abby. Abby's got her hand up. Maybe it's more of an Abby question. LaShawn, go ahead and punt it to Abby.
Okay, go ahead, Abby.
Thanks. Abby Feely, Director of Development and Growth Management. This building separation is when, for example, you have 3 sets of townhomes on a single parcel. So let's say you have 3 buildings of 4 townhomes apiece. Typically, you take the width of those 4 townhomes, the depth of that structure, and you do the calculation for how the buildings have to be separated on a unified piece of property. This is going to take out that width and depth calculation and standardize it at 15 foot. This wouldn't be in a hotel situation. In commercial would still have, although if there were 2 buildings to the hotel, then they would have to have a separation.
Right, and so, but that goes to my question is, under the document that we were all given, proposed modification says it includes hotels and motels. So my question is, if you have a 60-foot motel building and a 60-foot motel building on the same property, the same PD, it's 15 feet enough separation in regard to the massing of those buildings. I can see 15 feet is fine if it's a 35-foot, townhome or even a little small motel. But when you get up to 60 feet or something like that, from a planning perspective, from a mass perspective, is that what we want? And I guess the other question is, if you had plugged in those calculations that exist right now, and I'm just talking about big buildings, 60 feet, would it come out to more than 15 feet?
Yes, it would.
Okay, so
maybe
what we should, oh, I'm sorry, Abby. Maybe what we should do is just strike hotels and motels, or strike anything, maybe we should just say for 35-foot tall buildings, I'm perfectly fine with the standardized 15 feet, and I hope council is. Because, we have everything in the city now is basically 35-foot height limit for most of what we're building on a neighborhood level. And it's appropriate to have 15-foot separation because that's typical, as Mr. Miranda pointed out this morning, you know, typically it's 7-foot setback. But I do have a little bit of heartburn when it comes to larger structures that might be 40, 50, 60 feet tall.
Can I weigh in on this now?
No, sir. Abby, go ahead and finish. I think she's trying to.
Any
No,
comment?
no, it's fine. Just pulling up the calculation. I'll defer to Mr. Michelini. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. McLean, recognize.
I think that one of the points that Abby made was this is interior to a lot. This is not an exterior issue, and it would still have to meet what's in the building code is table 600, which is building separation for fire protection. Once you get to a higher level, you would have to have either fire windows or wire glass windows or deluge systems and things like that. So, I mean, if you wanted to restrict it to anything less than 60 feet in height, that's fine. I mean, that's typically a 4-story, if you had an apartment building or something like that. But the intention here was not to create more massing. It was simply to establish a standard that was very difficult to determine based upon the previous calculations.
Well, I'm okay with the concept, like I said, Steve, with the 35-foot or less. Okay, I'm not comfortable with it. I think massing is an issue when you're talking about larger structures. And you can say it's interior to the project, but it's not really, because if I'm standing on the street and I look at these two 60-foot buildings, they're going to be very visible to me, and sometimes they need more room to breathe between them. And I'm not talking about the fire code. I'm talking about the visual aspects of these things. So like I say, I can support half of this. I can support this, up to 35 feet, but anything higher than 35 feet, I not only do I have a problem with it, but I've heard from the community, and the community has a problem with it. We're in the process of doing these massing studies, and the community says, why are you even addressing this issue, which is a massing issue? I'm okay with compromising and say, let's move forward with this proposal, which makes sense to me, but it only makes sense for 35 feet or less. Mr. Carlson, did you have? No.
So, may I interject a clarification quickly, Abby Feely? The way the code states, it does say yards between buildings shall be provided for single-family detached. So this would be applicable if you had more than one home on a single lot, which wouldn't be. It would defer to the standard 7 and 7. Single-family attached, which is townhomes. Single-family semi-detached, which is duplex. Then it goes to 2-family and multifamily, and then to hotel and motel. Seems like what I'm hearing is that maintaining the calculation as it currently stands for hotels and motels would be applicable, and then a potential of setting a standard of a 15-foot separation where there are more than one building on a single lot for those that are 35 feet or less, which would be your standard RM and RS districts. Because those, with the exception of the RM24, which goes up to the 60 feet.
I think you got the gist of my comments, and I appreciate it.
Okay. So we wouldn't scrap then the whole calculation. We would modify per the direction just provided, or
Right.
Mr. Michelini would.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me continue with my comments so we can get through this.
Could I mention one more thing? We didn't initially want, we weren't including hotels and motels, so if they want to keep that calculation, I think as Abby pointed out, that's a reasonable compromise.
Okay, thank you. In regard to 27-156 official schedule of district regulations, and I'm on number 5, footnote 2 removes 30-foot height threshold and replaces it with 35 for each building height required before required yards shall be increased by 1 foot. On the RM24, is the RM24 maxed out at 35 feet, or how high can it go?
Are you asking me or Abby?
For the,
I think I'm asking LaShawn.
For the RM24, you can have a building height of 60 feet. And then you can request
Okay,
for each building height, for each foot of building height over 30 feet, in RM24, you have to increase your yard setback by 1 foot.
the yard setback. So this is not the wedding cake issue.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
It is.
It is the wedding cake issue, okay.
Yes.
Which-
So at 30 feet, once the building is at 30 feet and you go above 30 feet, then that required yard has to be increased by an additional foot
All right,
at a maximum of 60 feet in height.
What we were asking for here was to set it at 35, which was what all the other residential districts are set at.
So all our other residential districts, the buildings may go up to 35, and there is no step-in. So what they're trying to ask for here is that this be allowed, that the step-in now start at 35 instead of 30, because they couldn't even build, let's say they were building standard 35 feet in the RM24. At 30 feet, they have to step in, where in every other district throughout the city, you don't step in at 30 feet. So they're trying to uniform that and then say anything above 35 feet will then step in per the current requirement of the 1-to-1.
okay. All right, I think that seems to be fair. The next page is item 6. So the visitor parking, and maybe we should have Vic back on the screen, but the visitor parking relates to neighborhood protection. You know, nobody requires you to build townhomes and multifamily, et cetera. Very often you're replacing single family that always had 1 or 2 cars, and now you've got in the Soho district, you've got these quads that were replaced as single homes, and it created quite the parking problem, so much so that we had to create a parking permit program, not only in Soho, but also I think in Ybor City. So visitors are an issue. And I don't see a whole lot of justification, especially from a neighborhood perspective, on why we should be waiving that visitor requirement. Ms. Feely, do you have any policy perspectives on this?
So this is only for duplex. So this is only to eliminate visitor for a 2-unit. So typically, when you have the 2 units that share a common wall in the middle, and you have a 2-car garage and a 2-car parking pad, or in some cases you have a single car garage with a single space behind it, now you're asking for a 5th space to have to be created somewhere on the property. And it becomes a bit of a challenge. So on a regular standard home, there is no visitor. Then you go to the next step of our type of development, which would be the duplex. So on a duplex, this would only waive that on a duplex. So on a duplex right now, 2 units would be required 4 spaces plus a 5th space for visitor. So when you have those 2 units, and typically they're for sale products, let's say, for instance, Councilman Dingfelder, you own 1 unit and I own the other unit, and by code, we owe a guest space. Where is the guest space going? So a lot of times you see it either come before you as a pure waiver of the space, or it's being kind of dog-legged in on the side, and then they have a buffer reduction and they have something else just to accommodate this 1 additional space. So when you go to townhome, which is then 3 or more units, and you have to start to accommodate that visitor, which I really think historically was the impetus behind what you just referred to with the quads and in Courier City, Oscawana, and those other areas, they really do need visitor. So in those cases, when you have, this is another oddity, a 2-car garage and a 2-car pad, then you still owe a space, even though in theory you're having 4 spaces per unit.
Okay, let me just clarify, Abby, Ms. Feely, when you talk about duplex, it makes it sound like, it's just a little duplex. But the reality is, a double townhome, 2,000 square feet each, okay, is still in our code a duplex. So we're, so now instead of a single family house with 2 cars on that same lot, very often, we're putting, if the code allows it or if council allows it, we're putting 2 homes, and typically they are 2,000 square feet or more, and they have to have 2 spaces for themselves each, which would be 4 spaces, and then any visitors, the minute they have a party, that all flows out into the neighborhood, and we often find that's the first thing that neighborhoods complain about is the parking problem and emergency vehicles getting up and down their streets because the people are parking on both sides of the streets and everything. I mean, I hear what you're saying from a practical perspective.
Councilman Dingfelder, this is not my amendment, so this is Mr. Michelini's amendment, so it's, staff gets placed in a very odd configuration trying to explain and defend that, so I would defer to Mr. Michelini.
All right.
I find that it's odd because if you do have a 2-car garage and a 2-car pad, to me that is 4 spaces, and the guest is ultimately being accomplished on these 2 units if they do have that situation. So I would really defer to Mr. Michelini as he is putting forth this modification at your request.
Okay, well, he can speak to it at the end, I guess, after I get through my questions. The next item is item 7. I don't understand it. Ms. Doc or Ms. Feely, I don't understand it.
It's my understanding that when an average is more than the 20 foot, so where you have the lot.
No, I'm on the allow front entrances facing courtyards. Number 7. Is that what you were doing?
She was
This
on.
is, I would, so right now our code requires that all front entrances face a street or a right-of-way, that they don't face side yards and they do not face alleys. And then what you can do is you can come through a design exception to request that they be able to face a courtyard. It's at the zoning administrator's discretion, and that comes in as a design exception. I believe what Mr. Michelini is requesting here is that if they face a courtyard, they not have to go through the design exception. Is that correct, Mr. Michelini?
That's correct.
Okay, and this document says that staff, quote, supports that. I mean, what are the pros and cons of this idea?
It's really just, if you want me to start this discussion, it's really a design opportunity, and it's historic in nature. If you look at some of the older neighborhoods where you had a walk-up front door and then the units broke off to the sides of them, when the code was adopted, when the modification was adopted to stop units from facing the alleys, I don't think that was intended to stop courtyard facing units. So you would have an interior courtyard with an address on the outside that faced the right-of-way. It would be clearly identified as an entryway where you would walk through that area and then you would access your individual units. We reviewed this with the fire marshal's office because there seemed to be a concern about how did you identify the units, and they were fine with that, and they were also fine with the access. It's just another design option, which is, as I said, it's historic in nature. It's not a new concept, and we were trying to eliminate having to continue to file design exceptions for something which we thought should be allowed by right.
Ms. Dingfelder,
If I may.
go ahead, Ms. Miranda.
And just listening, and we're looking about the new concept now when you have houses that are joined by a common wall, I might say. But if you look at this, just step back from the standards, and I can show you houses that are on a single lot that have the same problems that we're talking about today, where they have 5 and 6 and 7 cars in front of the house when the house wasn't built for that. And the reason is the kids are staying longer with their parents to save money to buy a house or whatever, and they have a car, and they're living with their parents. So it's incumbent, and I know Ms. Calco's seen this in District 6, a lot of it, and I'm sure there's some in District 5 all over. So you have a house, and I can show you some anytime you all want. It's a new house, it's built with a double car garage. There's 2 cars in it. There's 2 cars in the driveway, and then there's 2 cars behind them, which half of it is blocking the sidewalk.
That's true.
And that's how it is.
Yep.
So I'm not trying to be a magician. The facts are there, and we have to look at the facts. It meets the code at the time they buy the house. But as soon as the house is built, can't park in the street, they're narrow, and you have a problem that we didn't create, but we now have to fix. Because it met all the requirements of the zoning. The building was approved, everything was approved, but then comes the aftermath, and there's what we're at.
Mr. Chairman, I think I've only got one or 2 more items, 8 and 9, which is the front yard setback, allow front yards at 20 feet or block average, whichever is less. I think I'm okay with it, but I just want to get confirmation from Ms. Dock that this went to the East Tampa, I don't know who in East Tampa it would go to, that maybe the CAC, or I don't know what other group, and also in regard to West Tampa, that those groups specifically reviewed it, understood it, and accepted it. And Ms. Docker, Ms. Feely, just give me comfort on that one.
Yes, Councilman Dingfelder. The request was sent to both the East Tampa and West Tampa CRA for review and comment. We didn't receive any concerns or any comments from either CRA. I did advise Mr. Michelini to reach out directly to the West Tampa CRA because the West Tampa Overlay Code had just come through. And you may remember, we just had the revisions to the West Tampa Overlay just to make sure that they had no objections to the request. So it is my understanding when I confirmed with the West Tampa CAC and the CRA, Steve did appear at one of the meetings. He did explain his request. There were no objections received. So I know he did appear before the West Tampa CAC. He can confirm if he did any direct contact with the East Tampa. But from the CRAs, I received no comment. And I did confirm the West Tampa.
And Steve, what was your exposure or experience with East Tampa?
I talked to Brenda Thrower, who had just taken over that portion of the CRA, and they had no objection. As a matter of fact, they had experienced the same thing that West Tampa had when you have very large, deep lots, and you had no other buildings on the property. They were happy with that. All it's doing is establishing a standard front for whatever.
Mr. McGlaney, East Tampa has a certain overlay. Ms. Thrower is new there. And I don't recall hearing anything about anybody going to Diane Hart, who originally, those folks originally set the East Tampa overlay. I don't recall any meeting that you or any group went and sat before the CAC to explain to them what you're doing. And what I see, gentlemen, with all these text amendments that are coming before us to change this and that, no one's talking to these neighborhoods. No one's really explaining them what these text amendments, I'm new to really understand what this privately initiated text amendment stuff really is. And we're sitting up here, to me, this is a development concept, a developer concept. This is not a community-driven idea or concept. And for me, that if we're going to be doing these, we've got to have some kind of standard of policy within the city as it relates to these text amendments, these privately text amendments, because people feel that people are getting forced out. And then you have a lot of people are saying that, well, you have a lot of attorneys here, this and that, and they're all developmental attorneys, and they're not really caring about the people. Well, regardless, this House has to care about the people, and our attorneys have to be thinking about the people, not just the developers, but the people, and making sure the people understand. We get all this jargon thrown at us in the community, and they don't really understand what they're buying into. And in the ninth hour, like, we didn't know it meant that. And I have a problem with that. We don't educate the public well enough to understand what we want them to know. We just tell them what we want you to do. So I'm just saying that
Yeah, well,
I'm just letting staff know, Councilman Goose have a problem with all these initiated tax amendments and communities not being knowledgeable of what is really happening in their community or any type of form. When I look at the county, at times, right now, Ms. Gwen Myers, she's got signs all over the east side of town that she's having a town hall meeting about certain stuff. We've talked about that several times. Her photos on there, it gives a date and a time. We do none of that here. And people don't know when the meetings are. They don't know what we're even doing half the time. And that needs to change. We need to follow some of the county's protocol as it relates to these town halls or some of these meetings so people are properly noticed. And that is a problem for me. Mr. Dingford, I'll yield back to you, sir, but that's my issue with these privately text amendments.
I appreciate your passion, and I agree with a lot of what you said, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, I think in regard to this particular batch of privately initiated text amendments, I think unfortunately the code allows them to kind of chug along, and I'll take advice from Ms. Wells, who is here from the city attorney's office. It appears that some of these might be palatable, and some of them, in my opinion, need changing slightly, and some I'd vote against. So I'm comfortable with marching through these on an item by item basis, 1 through 9. Since nobody's appearing remotely, we can probably just do it by a quick vote instead of a roll call vote, I would think. But anyway, just marching through these 1 through 9, and then just see where that takes us. But I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you completely, Mr. Chairman. Oh, and also in regard to the public meeting that was on, I guess, June 7th or something, we've all got emails about that, and everybody who attended said it was quite a disaster and no fault of staff, but they just said it was a disaster in terms of, really trying to get a clear understanding of what these things are about. So, all right.
Anyone else?
May I be recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The West Tampa and the East Tampa overlay districts, those were requested by the staff for us to include in our presentation, and quite honestly, there was no specific development that was pushing that, or any particular builder that was pushing that. It was designed to straighten out the code and establish what the front yard setbacks would be to help people, not to hurt them.
All right, so we should hear from Ms. Feely in regard to that statement.
She wasn't involved then. She wasn't back with the city at that point.
Well, so who asked you to include those?
Kathy Coyle, Gloria Moreta. This goes back, I'm telling you, these are 4 years old.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, I don't want to put Abby on the spot, but she inherited this as she was just coming back into the city to.
Well, I don't know why the city's had plenty of chance to do their own text amendments. I don't know why they'd asked you to include it on yours.
Well, when the West Tampa overlay came through, it was too late to include this provision in their request. So the timing was off. I mean, I did personally talk to, I was on a Zoom meeting with the West Tampa CAC. I reviewed this in detail with them. They not only had no problem with it, they applauded it because it solved a lot of their problems.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and just march through these one at a time real quick with quick votes, and then we can move some of them forward, and maybe some will just die. Can we do that?
Mr. Shelby, what are you up to?
I don't blame him.
I really wasn't looking at taking a motion or vote on these today. this workshop because I want to make sure who had questions, making sure that CRAs and stuff are notified properly and making sure they understand what's going on. So I'm not inclined to take motions on this today. I'd rather wait to make sure we've had all parties understand. And also, I believe we have discussion about text amendments, how we're going to go forward on that in the future, correct?
What is that, August 15th? Or August what? What did we defer those other ones to? August 26th?
Yes, August 26th.
All right, well, why don't we just defer all these to August 26th? Then?
Yep.
And give the petitioner leeway, who's got to go see, to come back with some consensus somehow. If not, we're going to be back where we started.
Mr. Carlson, you recognize?
Yeah, in addition to the CACs, I recommend neighborhood associations, and in particular the reconstituted FAN, because ideally the neighborhoods would understand what the impact would be to them, and we'd be able to hear their feedback.
All right. So my motion is to defer item 5 to August 26th to coincide with the rest of our PITA discussion.
This motion by Mr. Dingfelder, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Gentlemen, I'm going to ask a question. We have item number 9. We have about 4 to 5 people. Mr. Shelby, is that correct to speak?
Last I
Would
checked,
you rather, gentlemen, go ahead and break for lunch now and get those folks on the back end when we get back here, or would you like to take those 3 or 4 people now?
Then we got to do we have to do the 1:30, or we're doing the 1:30 outside?
Yeah, we're doing the 1:30 outside.
So we'll be back at 1:30. We got to leave now.
Yep.
Chairman?
Yes, sir. You recognize.
If you're going to take a recess now and you're going to be at the mayor's office at 1:30, would you have a recess of this meeting today now till 2 o'clock, or?
2 o'clock.
It'll be 2 o'clock. I mean, the rest of our general items shouldn't be too long, 7 and 8. Got a few questions for us, so those shouldn't take very, very long, so we should be able to get to our evening meeting enough time, so.
And your direction then to the people who are waiting, that if they do wish to speak, they
My
have to come
understanding,
back?
Mr. Miranda's aide said that those folks wouldn't have a problem with coming back. Is that correct?
2 o'clock?
I see Gene Duncan here, so obviously she must have talked to those folks.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we were just inquiring about your recess schedule because we do have some folks ready to speak on item number 9. We do have one lady who will be catching a plane at 3 o'clock, but we want to accommodate your schedule and your other items that you have. So we're just wanting to get the latest on the schedule so we can sort of plan accordingly.
Jump to number 9 right at 2 o'clock.
Right, we'll jump to 9 right at 2 o'clock. Item number 9, we'll go at 2 o'clock.
Very good. Thank you so
All right.
much.
All right. Gentlemen, it's 12 o'clock now.
Thank you, council, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll go ahead and we'll take a recess until 2 o'clock, gentlemen.
And Mr. Chairman, just a reminder again, you said you were going to be at the mayor's office at 1:30?
For you and me, so let's get together and then we'll see. It's a beautiful world for you and me. Come on, baby, take my hand. We live together in this beautiful land. It's a beautiful world for you and me. We can be as happy as fish in the sea. So let's get together and then we'll see.